the old point-a-rooney when the intro's over.
You can hear the sound of my voice. If you can hear my voice, you're hearing my voice. If you can hear my voice, if you can hear the sound of my voice, you are on LSD. 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 You are on the Lonely Screen Delicatessen channel.
All right, we're good.
You get your pelvis thrust. Now you're going inside. Oh, sorry.
We're live.
Oh, is the intro over?
Yeah, and you kind of sang over it.
If you can hear the sound of my voice, then you're on LSD. Not the mind-altering substance that can open up your subconscious mind into other potentialities and perspectives. No, you're on the podcast, the Lonely Screen Delicatessen Podcast Network. With me, as always, my best homie, the Pinoy boy toy Mike Noveloso, and here I am, Andrew Rodriguez, the Cuban Nina Rubin. We come to you again on a Thursday evening towards the Friday morning hour, and the
Level
world
up
is
times 2.
times 2.
That's the name of this episode. Level up times
Double up.
2.
Times 2. We come to you as the world continues to turn every day, nonstop. It gets weirder. It gets weirder. It gets weirder. A lot of stuff has happened in the news. We haven't really talked about politics or culture in a while. We've kept it more like personal conversations lately. So I think we were both talking earlier, just a moment ago, about talking about some stuff going on in the world today.
Yes.
And I'll let you open it up.
So, if you probably heard, that 16-year-old girl was shot, and because she was saying, "I'm gonna stab the shit out of you, motherfucker," to another girl, while her father stomped on said girl's sister's head. So, and people are trying to. Here's the crazy thing. It's not. So, it's a little tangent. I'm kind of glad Trump is not president. Like, I never thought I'd say that because I don't know if you've noticed, like, the left-wing media is, like, starting to get more center again. And I think, honestly, all of left-wing media had TDS. Because Don Lemon, one of the worst people on TV, and the brother of the governor of New York, Cuomo, fucking... Yeah, they both said that officer was justified. Tasers wouldn't work in that situation, and it's a tragedy that a 16-year-old girl is shot, but is it...
Did she pass away?
Oh, yeah, no, she died, she was dead before she got to the hospital. So, but, those are two of the craziest people on TV that are saying, it's...
I said it to you earlier.
Justified.
I said it to you earlier when we were talking about it. I want to hear, because I've seen, I believe it's the aunt of this young girl on TV.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen a few people who are very angry about the shooting, and frankly, it's justifiable. Nobody wants to lose a child. Nobody wants to lose anybody that they love, regardless of the circumstances. It's horrific.
2 days earlier, a 13-year-old stabbed another 13-year-old girl in the exact same situation in another state.
I want to hear, and I haven't yet seen in anything. And again, I'm not looking for it either. But I want to hear from the parents of the girl who was about to get stabbed. I want to hear how they feel about the situation. I know that if I have a daughter, and if my daughter was about to get stabbed and somebody lit up the person who was about to stab her, I'd be pretty fucking okay with it. It's sad. The circumstances are fucking sad.
They are.
It's an ugly situation all the way around. There's not a winner. You know what I mean? This does not seem like a racially motivated issue.
No.
This does not seem like an issue of police gone wrong, in my opinion. Look, you see what happened with Chauvin? He got tried. He's convicted. Hopefully they sentence the fuck out of that guy. When you look at that video,
it's gonna happen.
No matter what, no matter what you want to say, even though Floyd was supposed to be some shit, even though he fucking had counterfeit bills or whatever the fuck he had, it's fucking. I've never seen a law enforcement officer say that was good police work. Left,
right, center. Everybody was agreed. Like he should get some.
People who are just weird. Who have racial shit that
but that's
are gonna say whatever. But that one's just a bad fucking one. It's like Rodney King. They did not have to beat him that fuck up.
Exactly,
you know what I'm saying? Plain and simple. They could have yoked him out. They could have beat him a little bit, probably. That's what they can. They can get away with it a little
that's
bit.
L.A. actually,
Especially that was like Rampart or whatever. They were just known for beating the fuck out of
him.
But they crossed a major line. The society decided this situation I think is only getting this level of buzz because of all the fervor surrounding other shit right now.
Yes. So here's the crazy thing, like even
Like the
some
one
of
in Chicago is more egregious. I don't know if you saw that.
No. Oh yeah, where the lady
13-year-old boy who got shot? No,
Yeah.
13-year-old boy.
Yeah. But this
That
one
was
in
pretty fucked
particular,
up.
like everybody, even the people that were like, even some of the people are like, oh no, it wasn't justified or whatever because there was only the body cam footage. Today, another angle from like somebody across the street that was just filming
Yeah,
looked like on
I'm
like
pretty
a
sure Angle's
like on a steady cam, honestly, because that footage did not shake at all. Anyway, I feel everybody now like shifted. That's when like Don Lemon and Cuomo shifted from like any other narrative. Like we feel really bad for the cop because the cop got there.
Well, you know,
The cop was there for under a minute, and this girl immediately pulled out a knife and said, "I'm going to stab the shit out of you," and then starts trying to stab a girl, and he doesn't shoot her right away. He's like, hey. They get away from him, and he's like, I gotta fucking... He was there for under a minute. Like, they had pulled up. He was there for a little, but they pulled up. As soon as he gets out of his car, the first thing he hears is, I'm going to stab the shit out of you. And he's like, well,
Dude.
I guess I'm fucking here, right? Like...
Well, look, I heard, I've been watching like other YouTube duos recently to kind of like do research for our channel.
Yeah.
And two guys that I turned you on to recently that I really like are ABBA and Preach.
Yeah.
And one thing that I heard them say in regards to another really sad situation, much like this one, and it might have even been this one, honestly, because I've been watching a shitload of their videos, so it kind of blurred together.
Yeah.
Like, withholding judgment until all of the available information comes to light. That shit resonated with me so hard because we all get like a knee-jerk reaction from these kinds of situations, and you can't help but be like intensely incensed about something like this, one way or the other. And sometimes emotionality can be a motherfucker, and that's a child that got killed. That's also a child that was in whatever kind of emotional state to want to fucking pull out a weapon. Some people were saying she got pulled out the weapon because she was getting jumped, but you can't blame the cop for what he arrived to.
Like under a minute. I mean? He had under a minute to process
like
anything.
LeBron James posting shit on
race
social media,
baiting piece of shit,
saying fucking like you're next and shit like that. What?
Fuck that guy.
What a fucking like if Trump is gonna get in, and you know me, I don't fucking like Trump. I'm not a fan of the guy. But if he's gonna be considered insightful,
and that how is that not?
You've got to look at
also,
that as extremely insightful as well.
Like, so when Don Lemon says the same thing that you said, and that is like top level race baiter, you know, like he literally said.
I wouldn't even call him a race baiter. He's just a hardline lefter. Like he goes all the way.
He always pushes the because they're black
guy,
narrative.
Right?
Yeah,
that's what news guys are nowadays, anyway, right?
So, but I mean that his job is to be a race baiter. Yeah,
no,
so
not a race baiter, a pot stirrer. Even if it wasn't a race.
I have to push him past the line of race baiter just because. Yeah, I mean he said all white men are evil, and we should start to exterminate some of them. He's married to a white man anyway. So
likes that evil dick.
I mean he must love the evil dick. But I mean like if he said it though,
talk so much they don't know what the fuck they're saying.
Yeah. Well, I mean he's all emotion. He's all knee-jerk reaction, and for him to say the words,
he's just such a paper tough guy. I'd love to be that guy, and fucking with my Italian pass, fucking talk a bunch of shit about Dagos and walk to him because he gets all fucking up about that shit. Fuck you.
But like for Don Lemon to say, I saw it, I saw the information, and I said I'm gonna take a step back and wait for all the information to go through. For Don Lemon to say that, I'm like, okay, so clearly like. I mean, even pre-Trump, he was a little crazy left, but like as soon as Trump was running for office, he instantly had TDS and started becoming, like I said, the race baiter, all white people are evil kind of thing. And now that Trump's gone, I think it's like dissipated from his brain a little bit. So he's like, wait a minute, I have to like think about this objectively now. And he did. Him and Cuomo objectively analyzed the situation. And it was Don Lemon that said, everybody's talking about he could have used a taser. He's like, tasers don't work that fast, and they don't. And he's like, sometimes they don't work. You got to get the two barbs, and if they don't connect, it's not working. And he's like, it was in a certain amount of time. And Cuomo's just like, yeah, it sucks. Like Don Lemon's breaking it down. Don Lemon is
very difficult to refute when you look at them circumstantially. When you break it down for what it is. And it's a horrific scenario. It's sad as fuck.
I just can't believe
that we're at that place in America where we've got 15-year-olds.
Well, I just can't.
Each other.
Yeah, I can't believe that people are still like on the LeBron James train of like you're next. it was not justified or whatever. When like
shame.
the
It's a shame that
two of the craziest people on one side of media are objectively analyzing the situation. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you if these guys can see it for what it is? That's what I'm wondering. Like, is there room for those type of people anymore? Like in our society when people that disagree wholeheartedly with like how police use force. I don't know. I don't think there's room. I don't think there's room for Maxine Waters because listen, I
think what starts to happen is you start to see what these people are about, and they start to marginalize themselves in a way that.
But
they
the
just
problem is
fall
there.
into obscurity.
But the problem is like let's take Maxine Waters and the Chauvin chase. I wanted to see him charged with something. You know, I didn't care what it was. Like he should be charged with something and he should go to jail.
I'm worried about the sentencing.
I'm not. I don't even think they're going to get to sentencing before, because you heard what Maxine Waters said, right? She basically said publicly what the mob does, like in the shadows. You know, like they confront all the jurors and they're like,
crazy shit since
no, but this is like liable for a successful
suit against her
appeal. No, in the Chauvin case, a successful appeal. Her words.
So she might have handed that guy an opportunity again.
Yes. No, she definitely did, because she said the things that like mob bosses sent hitmen to the jurors, and they're like, "Hey, you're not gonna convict this guy. This is one of our, or you're gonna put him away. I don't care how long it takes. Or if you guys don't do this, we know where you live." She said publicly, if they don't convict them, we're gonna burn this. Basically, we're gonna burn this motherfucker down. And the judge was just, and it was so public, and it reached everybody. She was like, "We know where the jurors live. We know where the witnesses live." And I was like, you can't say that publicly. Like, if you're gonna do that type of mob shit, ask the mob how to do it. You can't go on TV as an 80-year-old woman. No, I know.
My grandfather.
No, I understand, but they didn't.
Used to say,
but she's.
That's the biggest fucking mafia of them all.
No, I know.
Fucking governments.
I know, but like, they don't do that. You know what I mean? They'll take they'll take the FBI and fucking pull people, or the CIA, and all of a sudden you're dead, right?
But it's like a Brave New World, right? I think what it is really is that they have always done that kind of shit and given those kind of things cryptically in messages. And
no, not like that.
But this bitch is old as fuck and starting to get batty. And when you've been kind of like gangster for a fucking certain amount of time, look, all the gangsters that get locked up in the old timers that get too wild because they're too used to being infallible for a long time.
I think you're confusing the point of what I'm saying. Is like, if you're gonna do that, do it right, but do it the right way. You know, like the mob does. The way she did it was so incorrect that the defense was like, "Hey, can we get a fucking mistrial because this lady's threatening the witnesses and the judges?"
I'm not saying you're wrong.
And so like if she should have like personally threatened them. Listen, without them, in the shadows.
I'm not agreeing with you on that fact.
Fucking idiot. That's why I say there's not room for them.
Here's what I'm saying. I'm not saying you're wrong. What I'm saying, the reasoning to my mind is that she's been pulling this kind of shit for
like 6 years.
80 fucking years. No, not 6 years, bro. Like fucking 40.
No, but she's been like 80 crazy, but not this like crazy.
Right, but she's what, 80 something years old?
Yeah.
She's been in this fucking politic game for like 40 something years.
Mm-hmm.
She's probably just like all these people who get caught doing and saying, Cuomo's older brother, he got he got hurt. Did you hear they had a recording of him saying like, "I'll destroy you if you bring forward the numbers of the nursing home shit." They've just been doing that shit. The difference is that in their heyday, when they were in their fucking physical and mental primes, when they were at the probably peak of their gangsterness, there was not the access to the abilities to record and fucking submit to the world all this information. But what I'm saying is, to that mind, I don't think. First of all, I don't think she's all there. A lot of those older ones, I don't think are all there. They're like, it's. Look,
listen, Dianne Feinstein is from the same state. She's crazier, but she's older. And she's much older, which is crazy that she's much older. And she isn't doing this shit.
And parents in your life. You and I are like the same age, 37, right?
Yeah.
Fucking, they're past their prime. Like our folks are past their prime. Like when you talk
my
to
grandmother
folks,
wouldn't say my grandmother's not that gone.
No,
that's crazy.
That's what I'm saying though. My grandmother has more tact than that as well. But what I'm saying is they're past their prime. When you speak to your grandparents, your parents, you're catching them up on shit. You know what I mean? And they're not totally in the know. They're in the know about some shit, and I'm sure they have specialty skills from their livelihoods or their lives that they have, assets, mentally, whatever. But they don't know what the fuck comparatively. These people are fucking running the government, and they're old as shit, and fucking way past their prime. They're fucking crusty and broken and fucking corrupt. That's the whole government, though. I feel like,
but
you got a handful of spots that are gangster, and that's it. That are cool. You know what I'm saying?
I hate Dianne Feinstein because she's pretty much pro-communism. However, like publicly, right? However, she is she's the oldest person in government, I believe. And she makes the most rational, mob-like decisions and the most rational, regular decisions of the octogenarians group in Congress and government.
Like the most
she's
understandable.
Yes, yeah. When she speaks, it's I understand, I understand that she understands that I understand, that she's just trying to do leverage, she's just saying something to say something, and there's a subtext to it, and there's a reason behind her bullshit. Maxine Waters is just
there's clarity to her methodology.
There's deeper levels to what she's saying, and I understand that.
But that's what I'm saying.
And as much as I don't like her, I appreciate her mental fortitude for what she's trying to do. I appreciate the game that she's trying to do.
It's just like Pelosi. It's just like Pelosi.
That drunk.
when she came down hard on the lockdowns, right?
Yeah.
And then fucking got caught in the fucking salon, right, with no mask, no kind of social distancing, none of that. Plus,
Feinstein doesn't get caught and do that.
Gift them, didn't pay
because she got exposed.
Like shit because she thinks because she thinks she's a gangster because they exposed her after she treated them like shit and didn't pay. So. That's how deluded that old bitch was.
See, that's what I'm saying.
I'm just going to do what the fuck I want to do. That's the same thing with this Maxine Waters. They're so deluded. They've just been doing what the fuck they want to do for so long.
I think,
the whole goddamn government's that way.
We were
watching the debate.
Yeah.
And Biden was like, well, whatever the issue's going to be whenever I get in there is what it's going to be. And we were all like, what?
And he's worse now.
Yo, he is. It's hard to watch, honestly.
I don't dislike him.
Countries are fucking laughing at us. I feel bad for him.
I feel really bad
for him.
Because
that's a hard fucking job.
He didn't want to do that either. Too is the thing.
Man.
He wanted to just.
He looks like he's had 10 strokes since the fucking election.
If he wanted to really be president, he would have ran against Trump and probably won.
There was the
first time.
But there was several actors that like I want to say the guy who used to do the fucking New Year's Rockin' Eve was Dick Clark. Was that Dick Clark?
Yeah.
There was a couple of guys like that who kind of they overstayed their body. You know what I'm saying? And in the limelight and trying to do shows and stuff with the fucking mouth and shit. And it's because my grandfather had that at the end. You don't wish that on anybody. That's horrific. I'm not trying to make fun of it, but it's you see it, and it's and that's what I think we're looking at with a lot of the people in our government because they're so entrenched, they don't leave. There's no capper. You know what I mean? So they're just in there for life, like royalty and shit.
They paid
they're gonna die in office.
Yeah, they paid for all the votes, so
So they're there. They're gonna be there. It's just gross. And fucking we don't.
But some of them don't want to be like Biden. Biden clearly doesn't want to. I don't know if he's.
I'm sure.
I don't think so because if you listen,
he's an elitist, bro. They all are. He wanted to be. I'm not saying he wanted the job, but he wanted to be the.
No. I understand that, but what I'm saying is if you watch him the 3 times that he's been out with people, the left. No, he's having a good time shaking hands and kissing babies, right? And
that's what I'm saying. He wanted the presidential part, but he's not equipped for the job.
No, he's not. No, because the left will ask him hey man,
They
did
are
you know?
softballing him, and he's
No,
falling
no.
apart.
That's the thing. I don't understand. They're like, hey, did you see Trump is doing this thing? He's like, huh, come on, man. You gonna talk to me about that guy? And they're like, oh, okay. What about this situation that's unfolding here with this
Come
state? And
on,
he's
man.
like,
I got a
he's
guy
like,
banging a guy.
yeah, and he's like, I'm doing something over here, dude. Come on, just chill out. I'm like, that's not like make fun of Trump all you want. Like he never was like, come on, man.
Did you hear about the thing with Ocasio-Cortez had like given this random answer, like a
like
answer to a question?
her obvious like
I don't know
obvious
what it was specifically.
vocabulary inadequacies.
Well, when she has like word soup that she
Insurgent.
likes to say, and she does a bunch of
Insurge.
word soup, say like a lot but say nothing.
Oh god.
So this dude or somebody, I don't know if it was a dude or a chick, somebody says something right online like, "Oh, what an underwhelming answer. This is a lot of garbled nonsense. I really expected more and hoped for more. Yada yada." Yeah. Somebody, I don't know if it was somebody from the office of Cortez herself, or just some jerk off online, reported that as a threat, and this individual was visited by the police on the behalf of the Capitol Police. Okay? And they had to like prove what the content of the fucking tweet was. So with no investigation of their own, they didn't look at it and go like, "Oh, that wasn't a threat." Like it's getting real weird with that shit. Real weird.
But like obviously, listen, I've been investigated by the police for comments online where I'm like, haha, that's funny.
I've been investigated by the police because I got a lot of tattoos and black
friends.
Listen,
no. So when it comes
they come and talk to me and they're like, it's pretty cool after that usually.
When it comes to so that's what I'm saying. When it comes to like political figures, they can't just say like, oh, we'll look into it and not look into it. I guarantee you this was like, I feel bad for all the cops that have to coddle these fucking babies that are like, the cops are probably like, yeah, that guy wasn't threatening you. And they're like, yeah, but you have to do something because she holds a political office and you have to go investigate this person. And the cop's like, all right,
a bunch of people
okay, I guess.
Her claims of what happened during the
yes, like the Democrats that have the offices next to her and the Republicans that have the offices. Yeah, they're like there wasn't. We were still working. Yeah. She's a lie. Like she is a like verified liar. Like with most politicians, you're like, I bet they're lying about something. But I can't. I feel like they are. But she's like verifiably a liar and has been reelected for some fucking reason over like a Jamaican conservative in her district. Anyway, but she's like
she's cute.
That Jamaican lady was pretty fucking hot. Anyway, she was stacked. Dude, it was great. I was like, oh, hot black woman versus
Caribbean so built.
That's what I'm saying. I was like, oh, hot.
Any island in the Caribbean, like they're.
I was like, if people are voting on hotness, like, she can run again and be like, so y'all are racist, you don't want to sleep with a black woman. I got it. Anyway, running on the conservative. People be like, I have to vote for the black lady, right? But no, so AOC's fucking stupid and probably made those poor cops go there, and they probably showed up there like, hey, did you post this comment? And he's like, oh yeah. And they're like, is this the context you meant it in? He's like, probably, oh no. And they're like, that's what we thought. So we already wrote this report that says you explained it to us. So just maybe don't scare these kids. And they're like, oh okay, thank you. I guarantee you that's how it went, because I just said something about the county commissioners, and I got a call, like a message on the police. They're like, hey, we have to call. Make sure you're not threatening them. I was like, no, the threat was that I'm going to run for office and take their job. And they're like, oh, that's perfectly fine. All right, well, thank you. Have a nice day. And I was like, yeah, you too. Like, it's dumb.
I've never had the cops call me.
Yeah, man. Dude, this is the weirdest state.
Somebody says some shit, and then, like, the cops they're talking to you, like, see you and go, like, and then you go over, and then they talk to you for, like, 15 minutes.
Yeah. But, the cops are weird in this state. It's almost like they have real shit to do than deal with this bullshit, you know?
We used to always say, if you don't have a kilo or a machine gun, like, they're going to just send you on your way, man. Like, most of the time, that's been my experience in Southern Florida, just because of how much wild shit is going on. Like, you know how many, like, I've known buddies that were in law enforcement my whole life, who would be like, dude, just the shit they find in traffic stop.
Oh yeah.
It's like, yeah, we found fucking 7 anacondas in a blue Civic today. You're like, what? It's like scraping the ground. It was weird. We were like, what the hell is he carrying? It was a bunch of snakes, dog. Like, it was shit like that all the time. And then, like, Miami itself has a history of, like,
just being wild.
Outlaw ass cops.
Yeah.
There was, like, a whole class one year or multiple years.
You were saying,
cops that all incarcerated or ended up murdered or ended up fucking like turning state's evidence and different whatever. And then like on top of that, there have been several times where Miami police have gotten caught doing like fucking major robberies and licks, killing people, putting them in the river or whatever, just crazy shit like that, dropping people in the bay after robbing them. Like
that whole group that you were talking about.
Cops in South Florida, to me, especially when I was a younger kid, like doing dirt or whatever with my, friends or what have you, it was always like whatever you're doing, you want to be doing small time enough shit to fly under their radar.
Yeah.
If you're doing big time enough shit to get on like a fucking a corrupt uniformed cop's radar, you're fucked. You're fucked. It's like you're dealing with stormtroopers like straight up, like direct.
Dude,
you know what I mean? It's bad.
I've told this story before about that cop that I worked with at Target, and he was like, "Yeah, I just don't want to be on the take," and I was like, "Oh, well, it's not all of them." He was just like, "No, it's all of them, and I got a family to feed, and like this sheriff's salary is not enough, so I work here at night." And I was like, "Oh, that's respectable." He like lasted a month there, and then like sheriffs walked in the front door like they had a key, and they're just like, "Come on, buddy. We already got a block set up for you." And I was just like, stalking the shelves like, oh God. Oh, they're taking him. Is he dead? No, he just ended up having to like, they already like set up like hookers and drug dealers for him to run. And he's like, I don't want to do that. They're like, well, either you're not a cop and you work here, or you're a cop and you don't work here. Like, I was just like on the other side, like stacking the douches. I thought was ironic. I was like, oh God. But yeah, like there's that. And also too, like the original thing was like the cops have real things to do. In Colorado, I was arrested and put in jail for 30 days for a $45 parking ticket. And here I forgot about a speeding ticket that was like $135. The cops came to my front door and I was like, oh shit, can I tell my girlfriend that I'm going to jail? And they're like, why are you going to jail? Did you do something? Do you have warrants? I was like, I don't have warrants. They're just going to take me to jail for not paying the speeding ticket. They laughed, put their hand on my shoulder. They're like, oh no, this is like our light day. We're just coming here to tell you got to pay this, man, or they're going to take your license away. And I was like, I'm not going to go to jail. And they're like, no, jail's for real people. They're like, it's fine, man. Just this is our day off, basically. And I was like,
I've never gotten snagged by the law as an adult. I've never, and now at this stage of my life, I don't do anything worse than snagged by the law, so I'm not worried. But like as a kid, a couple of times I've gotten picked up for different dumb shit, and
you're not hurting nobody.
Like,
yeah.
But you get lucky if you catch a good cop who doesn't want to, And you know what? It's one of those things.
I think that's most
human beings are complicated creatures, right? You could come across a cop who does dirty shit, but he doesn't want to hurt anybody. He's trying to make money. Like, or whatever, or he's like, this guy reminds me of my younger brother. I'm not gonna fuck with him. Like, you know what I mean? He might be the kind of cop who's doing some shady shit on the side, but also isn't giving people a hassle for a little bit of reefer or for a little bit of speeding, or he's nice to the people that he deals. It's a complicated world. I don't think that there's any black and white shit when it comes to stuff like that. There's a lot of fucking cops that don't do any shady business who might be pricks. You know what I mean? Like, so it's one of those things where. You get a mix. You get a mixed bag.
My most consistent good experience with cops has been on the highway, the Florida Highway Patrol. I've been pulled over many times.
They're fucking busy. There's not a lot of them.
No.
They're fucking busy.
I've been pulled over.
They cover a lot of road.
Many, many times. And I can tell you, I got one ticket one time, and the guy did not want to give me the ticket. He's like, but you don't have your driver, like your wallet's at home, and you're still going to work. And I'm like, I can't get off the road right now. He's like, I know it's busy, like, but man, that's the only thing I got to give you a ticket for. And then I was in the HOV lane by myself trying to get to work, and he's like, what time you got to get to work by? After he gave me the tickets, and I was like, I just need to get to that exit right there, and I need to be there in 10 minutes. He's like, get behind me, I'll flip the lights on. And he got me to the exit, he cut me across 95 during morning rush hour, and he's like gave me the wave off on the fuck. Like, dude, like, he still gave me a ticket. He didn't want. He was telling me how he didn't want. He told me how he's like, all you have to do is go to this office with your wallet and prove that you have a driver's license, and all of this goes away. And he was right. He's like, it's a ridiculous amount on this ticket. Like, he just told me how. Another guy pulled me over. He's like, do you have any weapons in the vehicle? Like, doing the whole thing. I was like, I actually just came from the shooting range. It's in the back. Do you want to see? And this is when I had, like, the fucking handgun that makes the judge look like a fucking small, compact carry gun. And he was just like, whoa. And I was like, do you want to, like, hold it? And he's like, yeah? And I was like, yeah, man, here you go. I was going, like, 40 miles over the speed limit. He was gone out of his brain. He saw that gun. And he was just like, oh yeah. He's like, fuck yeah.
Part of the thing too.
I was like, he was just a dude. He was.
If you have any kind of firearm permits,
yeah,
you've passed the same background checks that most police have to pass to get accepted to the academy. So
well, I didn't have a permit.
Big tell for them.
I didn't have a permit, but like, he was like, where are your guns? And I'm like, I'm legally carrying them in my trunk. Yeah, you had to go through a background check. Yeah.
Firearm, you had to go through a background check.
Yeah, and I was like, yeah, these are all like, these are all mine. I own them legally. And all that stuff. He's like, oh damn, I'm sure with this one. Like, it was great. Like, he just talks. He's like, holy shit. I'm like, pull out a fucking bullet. And he's like, what the fuck? This is the size of my pinky. I'm like, in your hand. I was like, yes. He's like, you can fucking take down a bear. It was great. But like, he was like, where are they? And I was like, they're legally in pieces in my trunk. And he's like, okay, good. So you know the rules. And I'm like, yeah, I know the rules. It's good. So like he was a total bro after that. Like, another time I got pulled over when I was on my way back to work, and it was the first guy that pulled me over.
These guys are at
Dude,
work.
they're at work.
They're not a bad fucking day most of the time.
Yeah.
You might run into a prick every now and then.
Yeah.
But that's like.
But I have not.
I
have not run. And
Taco Bell drive-through. Most of the time, people are going to just give you your food, and then sometimes you're going to get a prick.
I honestly don't know. I've heard a lot of stories of people that have been pulled over by the Florida Highway Patrol, and honestly, it sounds like if you're funny enough, they'll just be like, get the hell out of here, man. Like,
so
jokes work on Florida Highway Patrol for some reason really well.
Do you ever have a situation where you almost get like really fucked because of somebody else that you're with?
Yeah.
Fucking the last time that I ever got in any law-related trouble, I was 16 going on 17. I think I was like a month away from 17. And I'm with a kid who I'd known, I knew up until like my 20s, and then we had a falling out and I haven't seen the kid since, thankfully. But he was like a good kid. He was kind of a dork. He used to read fantasy novels constantly. He was one of those dudes. And he was like very smart, but sometimes too smart for his own fucking good. Like, he thought he knew better than everybody and shit at a young age. And we were fucked up, like wine cooler fucked up in our teens. And fucking, we're driving home in his Monte Carlo. And he's driving probably like 65 and a 45, something like that, like 20 over. And we're like Forest Hill and 441 area. Not like Forest Hill, like Wellington area. Yeah. Before like they built Olympus and all that shit out there, back when it was like fucking woods and shit over there, right? And fucking cop pulls us over, and we smell like we drank and shit. And he's like, what's up? What are you guys doing? Drinking? My buddy didn't have insurance, and I had a DL, but he didn't. It was like a whole and he like was looking at our shit, and he's like, you guys are really fucking up, man. You guys get in really serious trouble doing this. That he gave us like a lecture, and we just listened. And he was like, it looks like you're gonna be walking. He was trying to teach us a lesson.
Yeah.
He wasn't gonna hook us up. He wasn't gonna hook us up and take us. He was gonna tow the car, and we were gonna be stuck hoofing it for like fucking 20 miles.
But you weren't in trouble.
Yeah, we wouldn't have gotten a Dewey. And this fucking kid starts talking about his aunt works at the sheriff's department.
Oh my god.
And fucking saying all this shit, and I just got like wide-eyed, and the cop's like, what? And he says all this shit about like, you know, you better hope this and that and like gets like shitty, and then I just hear, you know, that crunch sound of the cuffs, like that click. And he pulls them off, and I'm like, and as soon as he does it, he squelches the radio and says some shit, and I socked my buddy in the side of the head hard as fuck, and dropped him down to a knee. And the cop just like stopped for a second. He looked like he was gonna get serious, and then he just stopped, and he was like,
it's like, get out of here. Get the fuck out of here.
No, he didn't say get out of here. He's like, okay. He hooked us up, cuffed us, sat us down. More cops came. They took us to the juvenile fucking detention spot, the same place that I had gotten taken years before for truant school. And fucking, we're in there, but he didn't charge us with the Dewey, and he didn't do the road test. He didn't do the breathalyzer. He didn't do any of that. And he could have done all that shit.
Yeah.
He just hooked us up because we were without licenses and insurance, and the car was insured and all that stuff. And it was past a certain time of night out in that county, and you're under a certain age at that time. I guess they could hook you up. So he brought us in for that, and we're sitting there in like a little common area, and this kid who was also like a touchy kid sits next to me in the fucking little like waiting hub, and you're supposed to have at least a seat between you. They tell you. But he sits next to me, he puts his head on my shoulder, and I sock him in the side of the head again.
What the fuck?
And this time he's like slipped over the chair. He was a weird kid. We fell out. Me and Tom lived with him for a couple of years. Or not for a couple of years. A couple of years after that, for a couple of months. It didn't work out.
Yeah, I mean, obviously. I mean, I've slapped my friends before.
He fucked us. We would have walked. We would have walked away. We would have walked off into the sunset. And I had a little bit of weed in that pocket and a little pipe, and the cop just threw him in the grass. He didn't even say shit about those either.
I think the cop knew that you were like, he's like, this guy's trying to get out of here.
Totally cool to me.
Yeah.
Totally cool. He's like, stop hitting your friends.
It's not going to change anything now. Yeah.
Don't hit him again. And, like, that was the first thing he said after he had like that pause. Because I looked like I didn't want to hit him again, I bet. Because I did want to hit him.
Yeah, man.
That's the last time. And the time before that I ever got in trouble with cops, same kind of mischief shit. We were like 15, 16. It was me, this kid. We were at this kid Kenny's house. It was this kid James, the same kid David, fucking who.
No name drop. Oh no.
The last name. This other and another kid I think was there too. Tom might not have been there for this one, but anyway, this kid had fucking grapefruits. Like a big grapefruit tree, or like these big like navel oranges, some kind of shit like that in his backyard, and it was like right on 10th Avenue, and it was like one lot in from the road, because there was like a storefront lot, like a smaller lot, and then the residential lots, and we were one lot in, and I don't ever have a great throwing arm, but a couple of kids did, and even that kid David had a cannon of a throwing arm, and they were winging these fucking grapefruits, and I was winging them across the street, and we hit a car. A cop was in. It was a cop's car. He got out, pulled gun. It was like a whole standoff. We were like hiding in the house for a while, just waiting. And when we went outside to try and leave, he pulled a gun on us and shit. And other cops came and fucking.
They gave him shit.
That cop. Yeah, it was a whole thing. We had to go to court about it, but we didn't get in super trouble. But that cop, he was really a prick. He was like pushing the gun into our heads and shit.
Yeah, but that's like one cop that you. Yeah.
I had one cop kick me in the face one time because he got scared, and I let it go. I was cool about it, and he was cool about it. I got to leave even though I didn't have my license in order. Fucking so they a lot of times in traffic stops, because I carry and because I'm big, I've been cuffed for my safety. Quite a few times.
Yes.
And so I've had also the move where they ask you to sit on the curb with your legs crossed, and you get cuffed. And oddly enough, every time that I've had that happen, I've gone home. I've not gone to jail. So I'm always super cooperative or whatever. And I've been lucky as fuck, I guess. But I sat, and my knee was kind of going numb and shit. So I like shifted, and he got like nervous, and he booted me in the mug. And I was like, oh, dude, I was just shifting my weight. And he was like, I'm sorry, buddy. And I was like, muled me good, and fucking he helped me stand up after that, and he uncuffed me shortly after that, and fucking apologized and shit. And I was like, I know that's not a big deal. But I've had a couple times like shit like that happen, and like just be cool about it. I've been with my best buddy Gabe, and fucking been coming back from like training late at night, and had a little bit of weed in the car. My fucking plates were I was uninsured. My plates were fucking old and shit, and they pull us over and be like, well, you got a year-old fucking plates on, you're nuts. Go fucking home now.
Yeah.
Where's the weed, right?
Around what time, around what years were those? Like early 2000s? Yeah, like 2010 or earlier? Remember my theory?
2002, 2004.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's like literally the time. You know what was happening at that time? I've told you this before. The fucking Iraq War. all the asshole cops that are like, I'll pull over anybody and shoot anybody, were over fighting in another country. While the guys that were left over were like the cops that were like, their dads were cops in the 70s, and their dads were like, man, not everybody's bad, you know, you gotta let people go and do these things. You're a part of the community, people know you, you know, all this shit. So, you know, like, those guys that wanted to be cops because they wanted to be a part of the community were the only ones left to be cops. So, I told everybody this for that decade, from like 2000 to 2010, like, I could not get, like, arrested on sight, you know, and like I was pulled over with 0 plates on my car, like, not even the new thing. I had like, we were drunk in the car, and we were like literally like one turn in from the apartments we were going to, and the cop was like, what are you doing? And I'm just like, well, right there. And he's like, I'm gonna watch you. If you go past there, you're all going to jail. And I was like, no, it's right there, we're going. So he follows us in, and then he's like, don't do that. Like, he's like, don't do that. And then, like, drove away. I was like, that was really bad. That could have been really bad. That was in Colorado, too, where, like, they'll bust you for anything, apparently. Like I said, I got picked up at my job for that fucking $45 parking ticket. And the cop was like, I mean, do you have, like, money to pay for it? Is that the issue? I was like, I can pay for it right now. I just forgot about it. They're like, that sucks, man, because you're going to jail for 30 days for a fucking parking ticket. Like, they were upset that they had to come and get me. Yeah. They're like, come on.
When you're young and you see, like, normal humanity come out of a cop.
Oh, yeah.
Because you think of them as like a automaton stormtrooper, especially when I was young, I thought that way. Like, and
Rage Against the Machine.
I remember the first time that I saw a cop be like a dude. Me and a crew of my buddies, like Chris, Ryan, Gabe, like, there's a good little group of us. Tommy Donuts used to come out. We would go, like, get crabs on the pier, on the stuff. We'd go fishing at night a lot. We'd go net fishing. We would go stealing of things. And we would grill late at night on the beach and shit. And one night we're on the jetty. And they would come, like, you know, shoo you off the jetty. The jetty would close at a certain time of night. I guess probably for safety.
Yeah.
Especially after one year when there was, like, a hobo who was sleeping under this little alcove in the jetty, and the tide came up. And I remember he was all bloated. We found him. Anyway, fucking, so.
Want to see a dead body.
Crabs. Yeah, want to see a body. Well, we were getting crabs in the jetty. And we saw the cop car, like, pass, and then we, like, got still. And we didn't know if they saw us, and we waited a little bit, and we were like, all right, that would have turned around by now. And we started, like, getting crabs again. And it was probably like a season thing, too. We might have been, like, out of season. We might have been technically poaching. But we didn't take into account, because we were on Boynton Inlet, we didn't take into account, you know, they had to, like, go a ways before they could turn back around. So we're getting crabs, and then all of a sudden the light's just on us, the fucking spotlight. And we're like, oh, shit. And I forget which all of us it was, but I know it was me and Gabe and somebody else. Could have been my brother. Could have been Chris, could have been any of our little crew of guys that would always hang out. We jumped into the fucking water in that rough ass fucking inlet, and fucking Gabe kept the fucking bucket of crabs above his head like a fucking, like a lady in a foreign country carrying her fucking wash home, like a G, just kicking. And I just remember he goes, out or in, like, meaning out to the fucking ocean or into the fucking bay. And fucking, I go, out, and we start swimming out to the ocean. It was a hard fucking swim, and it was scary because I was worried we were going to get banged into the jetty at any time from a wave. And the cop fucking yells, if you live, we're going to let you go! With the fucking loudspeaker. Fucking, yeah, we got around the jetty, we got down to the beach, and exhausted came in, and they were standing down there where the jetty meets the sand. And they didn't even come down to the sand. They were just looking at us. They were like, you all right? And we're like, yeah. And they're like, all right. And they literally turned around, went back up, and left.
If you live.
We earned our fucking freedom from fucking just being dumb enough to jump into the jetty, and they get to watch and see what happened.
I feel like a lot of cops.
30 minutes of entertainment that night.
I feel like a lot of cops have that attitude. It's like, is this person going to earn the pass for me? Like, let's see, like, what they do. I'm going to give them every opportunity to earn the pass. And in your situation there, it was like, Oh no, they're earning it right now. They're earning it. Like, because if we have to like go in and save them, they're definitely getting picked up. Because then we have to work. But like, if they live, cool. They live. They get to keep living free.
We made a bunch of cops die laughing one time. There was on 10th Avenue this old bowling alley and this old Home Depot.
Okay.
These big, empty, dilapidated buildings. Now there's like, you know, there was like a 99-cent stuff there last time I was there, and like other stores and shit. But they were just old and empty, and you could just break into them super fucking easy. And one night, it was me, this kid I used to call him Snud. He was a good buddy of mine when we were kids. It's one of those ones where it's like, oh, I would catch up with that dude. Him and it might have been Tom with us. There was this kid named Jimmy who was like a big ass kid. He still friends with him on Facebook, and like maybe somebody else. And there was a gang of us, and we're breaking into this bowling alley, and it had like multiple attics. And every attic we went into, we found like other shit, and you're going like higher and higher up. And we all kind of stopped at like the second or third like tier up, and Snud just like kept going up. And as we're getting down to the second attic, back down to the second attic or whatever, as like, because you can go like 4 floors of like weird little attics and, you know, crawl spaces or whatever. And fucking, we're down to the floor right above the main floor. As we get down there, and we're like, oh, we'll just look around here. I don't want to go, like, because we like went up to the third one, and me and Jimmy were both big dudes. So was Snud, but fucking, we're like maybe all 3 of us up here is not great. Go back down to the one that feels sturdy and look around there. So we're walking around, we're getting ready to walk around, and all of a sudden, just like flashlights, and we're like, whoa, and it's 2 cops, and they're like, what the fuck are you guys doing? Kind of attitude. It was like ridiculous. And we're just like looking around in here to see if we can find like bowling shoes or bowling pins. And he's like, this fucking place is a death trap. You gotta get, you're fucking idiots. And he's like, are there any more of you in here? And I'm like, no. And just as I'm like saying no, Snud's fucking leg comes through the fucking ceiling. And he's like, ah! And his hand got like skewered on some shit. And he was like, ah, my fucking hand. And we were like, oh shit. And we had to like push his foot so he could like pull himself up. And he was like, the cop was like, you're a fucking liar. I was like, yeah, I definitely lied about that one.
It's always good to see cops laugh because like they see some shit all day.
They got startled for a second and they died laughing. He was like, ah!
It's like I said, it's funny to see them laugh because like they see like a lot of shit all day and they have to be ready for like people to fucking stab or shoot at them. Yeah, and then they see a fucking teenager's foot go through the ceiling and go through the ceiling. Ah!
That shit was funny.
Some of them try to get like too friendly with me though, not like sexually, but like they would be in uniform and I would be hanging out with them in their squad car and they're like, you want to hit this? And I'm like, oh no, I don't smoke weed with cops. And they're like, it's okay, we're friends. And I'm like, oh no, I just don't smoke weed with cops. And he's like, but you smoke weed? And I'm like, yeah, but I don't smoke weed with cops. He's like, well, what if we were at my house? I'm like, I don't smoke weed with cops, you know, like I'm good.
I worked for Macy's, right? And fucking, I was doing loss prevention for them for a long time. And you would be on call, like, it would be like a rotation of the whole loss prevention staff. You'd get a pager every, like, you know, 6th week or 8th week, depending on however many people was on that building. It was a 2-building Macy's. Yeah. It was like a men's store, a home store, and a furniture store, and then ladies and kids. And fucking, I remember I had the page, or my supervisor, Hector, was a really cool cat. And he fucking had the pager one night, and he hit me up, and he was like, hey, I don't have a car tonight, and the pager just went off. I know you live right near the building. Do you mind going over? And I'll, you know, you can put in for double time or whatever. And I was like, I'm going to be totally honest with you right now. And I hadn't worked with him for long. I was like, I'm going to be totally honest with you right now. I would do it, but there's no way I'm going to talk to a cop right now. I am higher than giraffe pussy. I used the fucking Joe Rogan plan. And he died laughing. He was like, I'm fucking glad you're honest with me. He goes, how about this? Are you okay to drive it? I was like, yeah. And he's like, come get me, take me, and I'll still put in your hours for overtime, and I'll talk to them.
You're like, woo, more weed.
I was like, money. And so I go, And and I was like, oh, I was like ready for a stoned adventure anyway. I'll pick up a burger like while I'm out, whatever, fat boy. And so I get him. I take him to the fucking store. We get in there, and he's talking to the cops and shit. And the cop's like, yeah, it's usually only one of you. How come it's two? This guy training still? And he's like, no, he's not training. He's not training. He just didn't want to come on his own and talk to you guys because he's high as fuck. And I was like, And the cop's like, oh shit, yeah, you baked that in your head? And I was like, yeah, I'm pretty baked. And he's like, that's cool. And he goes, all right, now I know what to do with any shit we get finding the mall. And I was like, what? I thought he was joking. And a couple different times, a couple of different cops that like got to know me would like hand me like a little eighth bag or a little fucking quarter bag of something that they bucked off some kid or somebody in the mall. And be like, hey, you got this today, hey, you got that today. And I'd be like, thank you. Like it would just be like a random up. They would just hook it up. That was always a funny fucking funny relationship.
That was what the cop said too. It was my buddy. Like I had hung out with him and his family. Like he said, he's like, well, if we were at my house, would you smoke it? Still no. But like he was like, yeah, man, I picked this up off this kid. And dude, this kid rolls the fattest joint, so I know when to pick him up. And I was like, so you're stealing joints from kids? He's like, it's fucking fire. I don't know where he gets it. I'm just like, weird.
So the guy who told me that he would do stuff, like the guy who was there that night, he was a guy who we saw often, and he would be in the office all the time. He would eat lunch with us and shit. And there was other guys who we saw less often, more often. You know what I mean? Like depending on their shifts or whatever, their hours, because mall hours and all that shit. And so, but the first person who gave me anything was a guy who I didn't chit chat with much, and we're dealing with a case like of a shoplifter that was getting picked up for felony, and he was like, oh, so and so said to give you something, and I was like, okay. I didn't know what it was. Like I didn't think anything like that because like a little bit of time had elapsed. I whatever. And then I was like, what's up? He's like, oh, I'll give it to you out by my car later. And I was like, okay. So we do the paperwork. They hook the guy up. Another unit comes to pick the guy up. He's like chit-chat with me. He's like, come out to my car or whatever. And I was like, okay, yeah. And he just gives me a fucking little like baby food jar with like a quarter in it. And I was like, what? And he goes, I put it in a jar because it won't smell. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, totally like didn't know what to do. I just was holding it. And he goes, put it the fuck away. And I was like, ah.
Yeah, yes.
What the fuck? What? And he's like, yeah, so and so told me to give it to you. He said you fucking burn all the time, so here you go. And I was like, thanks, I appreciate it.
Thanks, officer.
Well, and I knew him by his like name. We all taught we called them by their last names because that's what you saw. You know what I mean? We all knew them, and so I was like, thanks. And he's like, yeah, anytime. Then I know where to drop my. And I was like, all right. And then like from then on, a couple of dudes would just like hit me up randomly while I worked at that job and just be like, oh, here you go. And I'd be like, oh, it never got unweird. It was infrequent enough too that it would just be random as fuck. I remember one time I was with my brother and he was like, "What the fuck just happened?"
That is weird. Like, and it sucks because like they want friends that aren't cops, but it's still weird because they're cops and they know that it's weird. Like, there's only one guy that I saw on a frequent enough basis. It was my ex-girlfriend's friend. And it was her friend who, like, fucked up situation. Like, when he was in police academy and they were, like, taking people to the morgue, like, he saw my ex-girlfriend's friend's mother's dead body. Like, that was his first day. Like, and she had just passed. It was real weird. And, like, he grew up with her, you know? And he was like, fuck. Like, yeah, I was like, I had to leave. Like, that's the only guy that I would, like, trust. Like, if he's like, here, take this, or here, smoke with me. Because I've seen that man, I will not say his name. I've seen that man smoke crack.
I didn't mention any names.
Yeah.
I never mentioned those kind of names.
I've seen that man smoke crack that he pulled off, like, with people. And he's like, I've never smoked crack before. And we're like, don't do it. And he's like, no, this is terrible. This is great. This is terrible. This is great. This is terrible. And we're just like, oh, God, that's terrible. Aren't you a cop? And he's like, I can do whatever I want. I'm like, I don't think that's how that works. He's like, no, man, we're all good. And then, like I've taken bong rips, like, at the same time with that guy. Like he pulls up to the party with his lights on, and then, like, everybody's like, ah, fuck. And then he jumps out of the car, like, fucking chugging a beer. He's like, I'm off the clock, motherfucker. Like, I was like, oh, damn. Like, dude, it was like a kid. He was a kid who should not have been a cop. That just everybody knew growing up. And I was like, okay.
Crack out of principal one time.
What?
Fuck it. This is what he said. I'm pretty sure he smoked crack just because he smoked crack. But I'm with a couple of my older cousins. So my mom passed away when I was like 19, 20. And like I started hanging around my dad's family a good bit more. I moved into my dad's house and I was actively pursuing combat sports all the time. And one of my cousins was into like trail biking and stuff. So I would go run the trails that he would bike, and he would like bike with me. And like, you know, he basically would make me run stairs and stuff. He would help me do my cardio and shit. And that brought me around my other cousins, some of whom were dirtbags. And I was trying to get some bud. I only had a couple of connects in that area because I was new to the area. So I went to my cousins and they're like, yeah, we'll go get some weed. So we drive all the way to Miami and we're waiting in the parking lot. And I think we're going to get some bud. And they get a fucking bag of something else. And I'm like, oh, geez, what about the bud? And he's like, well, we got this so we can go get that now. And I'm like, okay. And then we're just driving around some neighborhood that's like hood as fuck. And I'm like, where are we going to get it? He's like, well, we'll see a guy soon. And I was like, what? And he's like, we'll see a guy soon. And I was like, I'm not going to give my money to some guy. He goes, I'll front the money and you can pay me back after we get it. And I was like, all right. And it's my older cousin, so he must know some shit I don't know. I'm like 19, 20 years old. I'm just riding. And fucking, they see a guy. He hollers at the dude comes over. He said, what you trying to get? He's like, this is what we're trying to get. Fucking yada, yada, yada. And the guy goes, all right, give me the dough. I'll be back in a minute. So the guy goes, we're waiting. Dude's fucking gone. He's in the ether. My cousin's like, fuck. Some choice words. And then fucking we start circling the neighborhood. And I'm like, fuck, now we're looking for a dude who fucking took the money to get the drugs. It's like a whole shit. And they're doing the other shit that they picked up while they're looking for this dude, getting more and more hyped up. And fucking we're circling. Finally, there he is outside of a quick stop. And fucking my cousins just hop out of the car. They ghost ride that bitch. It's just rolling. I'm in the back seat of a rolling car. And I jump over and drop that shit into fucking park. I hop out and they're chasing dude down and they get like halfway down the block. So I run back to the car. I get the car. I start driving down the block. Fucking they hop in. My cousin's like directing me where to go. We get to this alley. They see the dude. My one cousin, Alex, who's like a wild man, jumps out and runs after the dude and tackles him. And fucking my other cousin runs up on him and they fucking start whooping his ass. And they run all his shit and he fucking took the cash and got loaded up. He had bud on him. He had a bunch of other shit. And fucking, that's why he was outside the quick stop. He was trying to fucking flip it, you know what I mean? And fucking, because my cousin gave him like a couple $100 at that time too, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, damn.
Like, back in the days of reggae weed where like a fucking quarter cost like $50 and fucking, rather an ounce cost like $50. And fucking, they took all his shit, got back in the car, and fucking we're riding out, and my cousin just like throws all his shit back in the back seat. He's like all over the fucking floor. He's like, pick all that. I get in the back seat. I'm picking all the baggies of shit up, and he's like, tell me all what we got. I was like, well, we got this shit that I don't know what it is, this shit that I don't know what it is, this shit that I'm pretty sure of what it is, but I don't want any of it, and a bunch of little baggies, like $10 bags of weed. And he's like, all right, Primo, you keep all the weed. He's like, I just want to roll a blunt out of it. The rest you can keep. And fucking we go to a different neighborhood a little ways away, like towards where my cousins lived, and fucking go to a quick stop. I get papers, they get a blunt. I'm happy. My cousin takes 2 of the $10 bags, he's rolling a fat blunt, and he takes little fucking rocks out of the dude's shit, and he puts it in the blunt, and fucking rolls it up. And I was like, what are you doing? And he's like, you got it, you're gonna use it. And I was like, Jesus Christ. And he took all the rocks that the dude had. I'm guessing that the rocks were the dude's shit because it was just one little bindle of rocks and the rest was like other shit, like it was ready for sale. And fucking, yeah, so that dude's night got like made and ruined in like a couple of hours. Fucking, but yeah, fucking, and I was like, cousin, why are you doing that shit? And he's like, bro, you know, it's principle and shit, you know, I gotta fucking do that shit. Like, and I was just like, whoa.
Sure, the principle.
He drove me back to my mom's house in Miramar so fast from fucking Hialeah. So fast. And that blunt stunk so bad that I have to keep smoking joints in the back seat just to fucking like
not smell it.
Incense the smell. And my other cousin Alex was fucking the whole time. He had 2 24 packs of Bush Light at his feet in the front seat, and he was just crushing those the entire night. And by the time we're getting ready to go to Miramar, all he wanted to do was stop for another case. Fucking, that's my family. Fucking that side of my family. That's the Cuba site. Although the generation before them had a lot of class, it's the generation like X age group that's real.
Growing up in the
real pieces of shit.
growing up in the dirty Miami days.
Yeah, the
That's
bad
what
old
it
days.
was. Yeah.
The ones that were born in the late 70s were like the wildest, you know what I mean? And then my gen would be like the next wildest. But like, because I was born in the early 80s, you know what I'm saying? So I got the tail end of the real crazy and then into the 90s swing. But like those ones that grew up in the 80s, they saw like the Dayland Massacre and all. They saw the wild shit live and in person. Fucking yeah, but those guys were always wild as fuck. I could think of a lot more stories in regards to those cousins.
Maybe that'll be like a series that we'll do.
We still gotta release Cubans.
Oh yeah, that's right. It's pretty much done. I don't know how to finish it. I'm trying to make it good, you know? Like
maybe when you come up for our meeting, we'll watch it and kind of go over it together and figure out some stuff. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Sounds good.
Fucking, I want it to be every time I say 3 sticks in that, because I know I say that a bunch of times in that podcast. I want it to and like freeze frame on my face or whoever's got the best expression during that moment.
That's great because Roberto has an afro. He's gonna have a daughter soon.
I wish a daughter on everybody that I love because
Yeah.
it's the best. Yeah.
It sounds. I don't want to. You know. I don't know. I need your advice, possibly, regarding that situation because, like, I don't know. Like, it seems daunting. Like you said. No, not like. Like
I'm
it
only
seems.
6 years.
Yeah, it seems great raising them, but like you said, if somebody was trying to stab my daughter, I don't think.
Oh no!
Like.
Somebody was like, "Oh, you know, must soften you," and it does in some ways, but then in other ways, it makes you more aware of like what you're capable of. Because like I've seen you with your son too, and I've seen other friends with their sons. A lot of it is like let them fall and figure it out.
Yeah.
With your daughter, a good bit. I do that with my daughter, but I have to make myself. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's the instinct is to be so very protective, and if anything ever happened to my kid, I don't know how. Like.
Yeah.
And I'm sure every parent feels about their kid, but. I don't know. With a daughter, like I said, the instinct is so weird. It's so intensely protective.
Yeah.
I feel that way about my nieces too, and my little nephew. I love him to death, but also I want to like kick him on his ass and make him fucking tough. You know what I mean?
That's
like,
how I feel. Same with my nieces. Like I told this story. Like fucking 18-year-old tried to date my 13-year-old niece, and I was like, that shit's not happening. See, now if that were my daughter, I don't think I would have given him the benefit of like tapping the gun on the glass. I think it would have been like a. You know, like the glass is broken. You don't.
What are those things where you just like involuntary, the level of like frustration and anger that would bring out if you saw your kid in that situation, like your daughter, like your baby girl. You gotta be careful to raise them sensibly. It's hard. It seems like it would be a difficult job for anybody.
That's what I'm saying, man. I don't know. I'm not saying that having a daughter is bad. I'm just saying the extra stress of worrying about them in the future. Like, no matter how well you raise them, like, you could fucking raise Rose Tamagotchi, like, level.
1,000% right. It's one of those things where it just is what it is. You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. It's just a reality of life. Some people, you know, some one way daughters feel another. It just is what it is.
Speaking of, I can't say her last name ever, but that UFC fighter, Rose Namajunas Tamagotchi. I just call her Tamagotchi.
Namajunas or Namajunas? I'm not sure if the J goes like the Spanish way where it sounds like an H, but yeah, she's
Liberian. It's crazy.
She's Liberian
or Lebanese. She's
maybe Lebanese.
One of the European countries that starts with an L, like the Eastern one.
Lithuanian?
Yes, that's what it is. Yeah. So like she's real against like socialism and communism, obviously.
Most of those Eastern blockers are, my man.
So I don't know if you heard what like is going on because you know she's fighting that the Zizin Zhao lady. Yeah. That's the nicest UFC fighter I've ever seen too. She's super sweet.
Wei Li?
Yeah. She's
She's
super
just
sweet.
very respectful, very, very, very professional.
And
And she's savage in the ring.
Yeah, and she'll... Dude, have you seen
Her
the shit
fight
she would
against
do?
Johanna Jędrzejczyk, I think that's the one you're about to bring up, where she swelled Johanna's head up like a fucking
No.
balloon.
Before she was in the UFC and she was doing like one fighting in Japan.
Oh yeah. She was.
Did you see her?
destroying those girls.
Did you see her like almost twist a girl in half?
You know
I
what's
was like,
interesting?
I was
Whenever
like,
you
I
see
didn't know that
somebody
was a thing.
Whenever you see somebody break onto the scene in the UFC, this is a
Mhm.
fun thing that you can do. This is one like piece of advice that.
I saw her in one first though. Like,
Well, that's what I was going to say though.
Yeah.
But anytime anybody breaks onto the scene that they skip by you in those smaller organizations,
yeah,
take a second if they're destroying people in their first couple fights and go like, what was the last organization they were in? How many fights?
it was
10
just
fights, and just go watch because you're gonna have fun.
Yeah.
You're gonna see just them
But that's-
outclass people.
that's how she was ending people before she got to the UFC. That the thing where she takes your top half, she locks it up, and she takes your bottom half with her legs, and then she twists you like that. It's called like the
Yeah.
tornado or something. Like that's what they were called.
Well,
Like,
there's a couple of moves like that. They're like back cranks. They're
Yeah.
devastating.
but like
The
people,
Twister, that's like super gangster. Eddie Bravo popularized it.
like she
Called
was.
the Wrestler's Guillotine, I think.
Yeah, she was doing. That's how she was finishing people, and like one girl didn't tap right away, and then like she just didn't get up, and then she was just like, "Oh no, you're supposed to tap." Like she was like, "You're supposed to tap. I'm not supposed to like dislocate your back."
Yeah.
Like holy
it was-
shit.
Ian Salivary was the guy's name back in the day. He was like a really like tough journeyman fighter who had a really good submission game, and he, I want to say, won a couple of fights by back crank, and he may have even lost one by back crank, ironically. But that's one of those things that you see every now and then. Someone slap a fucking back crank on somebody, and it's like, ugh,
Just
like,
tap,
ugh,
just tap.
Like some of them,
Please.
it's like so you don't even, because they're such unorthodox maneuvers that like you don't know when it's coming, and then all of a sudden you're just like, what crunch?
Yeah.
Like this is changing me for life, forever. This is
I
forever
thought-
changed.
The first girl that she like twisters like doesn't know that it's coming, but she like releases a little bit and then like cranks her again a little bit, and the girl's like, "Oh no, this is not. I don't want any of this." But then
It's like anytime that I've got a heel hook, I've never tapped fast enough. Like it's one of those things where you start to feel it if
Yeah.
you know what's coming. You want out right away because it's like no, it's like oh this
Not
is
worth it.
fucking
Yeah.
this fucking random tournament. Most of the times that I didn't medal in any tournament, I got caught in a lot of ankle locks, a lot of heel hooks. Once I start to feel my knees separate, I'm cool. I'm
Yeah,
out.
no, thank you.
Peace.
I'll go
Peace.
on the
I got
next
skinny
one.
knees. No thanks. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll see you next time.
But so,
If
so
I can
like
get a hold of your neck next time, I'll win, but not today, I guess.
so
Fuck.
like these girls eventually realized that she was trying to twist them in half. So anytime she wouldn't even like, she was like setting up for it. They'd be like, "How do I tap out? I tap out all the places. I can't move. I tap out all the places." But I'm like I said, the last girl like didn't tap out, and I don't think that the Chinese girl knew it. She was like, "More?
Okay.
You want more? Okay. I mean, I'll keep going." And then finally, it was like the most like. I was like, yeah, because she's fucking dead. She can barely fucking tap. Like, you like fucking made her do that. That's ridiculous. Like, so regardless, that girl's a sweet girl, like I said. But Rose was like,
Wei Li Zhang, I think is her name. Wei Li Zhang, maybe.
I don't know, but she got.
I know Wei Li is the first two, but I don't forget if it's the Wei Li Zhang. But she is a fucking gangster, and she's like I said, she's such a professional.
She's a fucking monster, and
On fire.
I love her
I
celebration
love
in
Rose.
one.
I love Rose too, though. Rose is one of those people who rises to the occasion like a G.
She's
So it's gonna
like
be really-
she's like Sylvester Stallone, like made of wood, like in like Rocky 5 type of shit.
very tough.
Yeah,
When
like I
she
don't.
came out and worked Johanna both times in their fight. I mean, it just was.
You know that, and I think Johanna's fighting that night too, right?
Really?
Yeah, because she's like
Wow.
down a weight class or up a weight class and has a belt now.
I know she moved around a little bit.
Yeah, but she's got a belt now and she's defending it. But after Rose like worked her over and she was like, "Oh, I still didn't lose," I'm like, "Shut up."
Yeah. She didn't have the right
She-
people in her corner to tell her like, "Hey, you gotta take the L." You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Like twice,
Maybe,
even after the
some
second
people
time.
some people do mental exercises to kind of like cope with stuff. I think.
Well, so I kind of want to see her lose. So like that whole like fight.
fall far,
Yeah.
right? Like you see a lot of people like
Well,
when
like she went to a different weight class, so she didn't have to deal with the 2 other women that are fighting that night. Like specifically.
That's a strategic career choice,
Yeah.
right? But
she still stands to this day that says she didn't lose to Rose, and I'm like,
there's certain aspects of like long-term dominance that I think it's almost like being famous when you're a little kid. Like you get jaded, you get a little fucked up,
yeah,
and then on top of that, when you're in the limelight, everybody is looking at your style. They're watching. Like Chuck Liddell was a great example of like after a while, people started to just know how he moved because it was like everybody looked up to him. And what do you? It's same Muhammad Ali. Everybody looked. By the time Larry Holmes was able to take Muhammad Ali apart, Larry knew everything about him.
there was no surprises.
You had so many guys that had watched him for decades at that point, maybe a decade and a half. You know what
I actually
I mean?
want to go back to that, but my whole original point of bringing up Rose is that
tangents on tangents on tangents.
so she's like real anti-socialism and communism. So she made a big thing about how her fighting Xi Jinping was
Bailey, at least. Come on.
I don't
I hope you see or she oblique kicks you.
listen.
Are you just being Filipino?
Yeah, I'm being Asian racist. She's
Asian
not this.
racist?
She's not the same Asian as me, so I've got the right to.
Is that how you guys work it? Where it's like gotta be it's unilateral like that?
I mean, I shouldn't too because like everybody loves Filipinos and the Filipinos love everybody except for the Japanese. So like, I mean, she's not Japanese, she's Chinese. So whatever.
Right.
Chinese never fucked with the Philippines, but
Really?
no, actually, it's just Japan, a lot.
Spain?
Now, Spain was just like, hey, we won't shoot you. Can we have sex? And we're like, we like sex.
We like to
sex.
trade things and have the ethics.
We
please?
yeah. We like sex. Do you like pig? We love pig. Oh, well then.
Lechon.
Yeah.
You speak lechon as well?
Yes.
Okay.
So let's cook pig and fuck a lot. That was literally Spain conquering the Philippines. Just
What
a
a match.
lot of fucking.
What a match. What a cultural link.
Dude, I seriously don't think people in the Philippines teach that as like they conquered. They're just like, some friends came from Europe. We had a lot of sex.
We had Spanish fuck buddies.
Yeah. And then they left.
Isn't that like the hallmark of a good relationship? Somebody you can spend time with, eat with, and fuck with. That's like the three main issues, like the three main things you need to solve for a solid relationship.
I know for a fact that like them conquering the Philippines was they came there, they shot a couple guns in the air. The Filipinos had the precursor to the yo-yo, which was just a rock tied to some rope that was also tied to your wrist and sticks. And then they took out a couple Spaniards and they shot like one of them point blank. And the Filipinos were like, "Why are we fighting? Huh? This is stupid, right? Come on, you like food? We have lots of food." And then like literally it was just like, "Oh, now we party, right? Nobody's doing anything wrong." Like I'm very sure. But anyway, so like Rose.
Very interesting when you see a culture like Spain, which were like, you know, they almost had like a Viking-esque quality in a lot of ways, or it was like.
But I feel like they were nicer.
Maybe nicer, but
yeah.
There was an aspect of like, we are here, we want your women, and like coming to a culture like the Philippines where it's a little more open, seemingly, with stuff like that, where they were like, oh, here you go, like fucking have a bunch of our women.
Oh, my sister is not married. Oh yeah, take her. My sisters, none of my sisters.
Exactly.
Yeah, none of my sisters. But so anyway, Rose was saying like fighting this Chinese tornado monster is like fighting. It's like fighting against communism. They're friends. They have the same manager. Like they love each other like as friends. But she's like, what it symbolizes is her fighting against China and communism and socialism. And people are like, isn't that racist? And then she's like, double down, better dead than red. Like fuck them. And I was like, yeah, no, I want her to win. Like I like both of them, which is like rare. But like I want her to win.
In those fights though, where there's joy and respect and appreciate, it's I want it to be like both have a great showing. I don't care who wins. Like, you know what I mean? Where it's like if they put on a war fantastic, then I'm really happy.
I'm afraid
Happy
that the women's fights are going to be great, and Masvidal is going to get cuddle fucked again.
I don't know. He's got a camp this time.
I know,
He's got
but
a camp.
I want him to win. I want him to win real bad.
I'm a fan of Usman too, though. Usman's one of those guys that's just undeniable.
Yeah, no, I understand.
He's got an undeniable skill set, and he knows how to stifle people. And he can hurt motherfuckers. He showed that with Covington.
So it's like, yeah, it's like he dunked for the first time in the WNBA kind of deal. Like, also, oh yeah. Speaking of women's sports, I think I told you this. The women's soccer team, U.S. soccer team, saying fighting for equal pay.
Okay.
They got paid more than the men's soccer team.
And they're just keeping the squeaky wheel squeaking.
So here's the thing. In 2015, they were like, "Hey, we're not getting paid enough," and the American Soccer Association was like, "We agree. You need more money," and they're like, "Oh, sweet, let's do this. We want to. What's the deal you're giving the men?" And they're like, "This is the deal." And they're like, "Oh, so it's like if we win, we make money, and if we play games, we make money." And they're like, "Yeah, that's what the men are doing." And they're like, "Oh no, we don't want that. We want guaranteed money plus a bonus structure, right? That's similar to their only structure, right?" And they're like, "That sounds great. Here's money." So on average, a game you're making $270,000. Yeah, and then on average, I was wrong when I told you how much, like via text, how much more they were making than the men. I told you like 70,000 more per game. So the men were making 70,000 per game, roughly, right? And the women were making 270,000 per game, roughly. So the women per game were making $200,000 more per player than the men. And then they had the audacity to say, "We're not getting paid equal to the men." Well, you were offered the equal deal to the men. You declined it in lieu of guaranteed pay plus the bonus structure. And then they said, "Well, that's not good. We wanted our guaranteed pay plus our bonus structure plus the men's bonus structure on top of it. And that'll be equal pay." And the judge that was hearing the case, he's like, "You're all fucking crazy. This case is dismissed. You made more money. You can't sue for more money if you're making more money." And they're like, "This is ridiculous. This is sexist." And he's like, "It sounds like you're bad at math. Let me break it fucking down for you." And the judge breaks it down for him, and they're like, Nope. We deserve all of the money." And he's just like, "I already ruled. You guys got to get out of here. This is dumb." And so now, like, Biden's jumping. He's like, "No, women got to get paid equal to a man makes in a farm field and on the soccer field."
They got to get paid. You got to know what field. You got to know what field. You know the field. I got. Look. That's my favorite. Look.
Yeah, look.
Look.
I'm lost.
We gotta. He always goes like, "Look, we gotta take the time. We gotta take the time to do the job. Okay. All right. Which way do I go? Which way? That's my favorite. Which way do I go here?"
I just hate that they're.
I really feel bad for Joe Biden. I think that's a really tough job to take when you're nearly 80 years old.
And like also in that point, like in that stage of dementia. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like that, dude, man, that whole thing, it goes back to the shooting thing. Like
he's gonna, like, the way that presidents age. First of all, the only president that didn't age was Trump, because he's made out of fucking glue and Laffy Taffy and fucking.
He was the same when he went in and the same when he went out.
His hair is made from the bristles of an old broom and shit. Like, he looked the same. But presidents age hard, man. I hate to see what's going to do to Biden, man. He's already quite an elderly fellow. I feel like he's going to look like the Crypt Keeper by the time this fucking term ends. If he fucking survives it.
I saw something interesting in my last deep dive on the internet. It was a recent video of Trump exiting Air Force One with the full Secret Service on him, getting into the president's limo, and then.
Okay. Are you starting to go Q right now? Is that what you're doing right now?
No, I'm not going Q. I just wonder what it.
Trump's still president. JFK Jr. is actually wearing a Biden mask. That's what's going on here.
Is that what people are saying? No, like, and then.
I heard that. I don't know. I don't know if that's really Q or them it being, joked about.
It was weird because then he, like, he was landing someplace, and he went to like what looked almost like a sound stage, and like he
Could it
shook.
have been older footage?
No, because then he shook Biden's hand, and they were both like wearing the presidential seal. It was very strange. I don't know. I don't know what that means, and I don't know what anything is happening. I don't know what's going on.
I think it's pretty common for former presidents to meet up and do shit.
But
Maybe it's something for like.
But you
a
don't
unity push.
you don't send the Air Force One to go pick up
Are
a
you
former
certain it was
president.
Air Force One and not Air Force
Yeah.
Two? There's like several of those.
No, it
units
said
or-
Air Force One real big on the sides like it does, you know.
don't
So
know.
I don't know, man. It was just
Maybe
very
it was like a
strange.
show of good faith or
Yeah,
something. Who knows?
I don't know. Like that's the whole thing. Like people are reading way into it. I just thought it was interesting. I'm not like I
People
said.
do
I'm
that
not
with
going
everything
Q.
now, though.
Yeah, but
People
like
love to
the
just
sound
make
stage
everything
was
into a.
but the sound stage was like a replica of the White House, which is why
Mhm.
people are saying like that Trump's still president. So I could like see that, but I honestly don't think it's that. I just think Biden needs like he needs to be in like a certain place that can like accommodate his health and also appear to be the White House, you know? Like I think that's like as deep as the conspiracy theory goes. Like he needs to be like hooked up to IVs and like the fucking Winter Soldier, just on a bed all the time, ready. And then they're like
But
wake
you know
up.
what? I honestly don't think that
you know.
they put that level of care on the president's health.
Are you
I
serious?
think that guy gets run ragged from pillar to post. I am. Yeah, I don't think
He's
I don't
been
think
out
they're doing
3
preventative
times.
shit.
He's been out 3
What's that?
times. He's been out.
I'm not saying he
3
hasn't.
times.
I'm saying in general, I don't think that's the protocol. I think if they're doing that with him, they're scrambling to figure out how to do it properly because it's not the
Yeah.
general situation. Those
I think that's
motherfuckers
why
are
there's
up all the time.
footage.
They're working super hard. They're working, 18
Yeah,
hour
yeah.
days.
I think that's why there's
it's a
footage
crazy
of it.
job.
I think that's why
Well,
there's
that's what I'm
footage
saying.
of it because it's scrambling
Well,
to make
and
it
that's
happen.
why I think it's like a weird situation because he can't.
Yeah.
There's no way to do that.
Yeah.
Honestly, with Trump, it was like for me, I was hoping for a second term so you could see him have the heart attack live during a speech. Like fucking, I'm waiting for
He's-
that shit.
Listen, I don't know. He's way too laid back. I don't
I don't
like.
know,
He's
dude.
never
He
had
eats
to.
so much McDonald's and
Yeah, but he's never had to
shit like that.
worry about anything.
That's a
And
stressful job.
And they
That's a
all
stressful
take.
job.
Yeah, I mean, he actually. I feel like maybe he was like, if I win, cool. If I don't win again, that's
I
cool.
feel like that
Just
job
because-
stresses the fuck out.
Just because he's like, man, I was born with a
Got all
fucking.
riled up and surly.
Well, I mean, like he was like, I was born
They're
with
gonna
a.
take him out of Home Alone too. He's in Little Rascals.
That's right.
He's in the Little Rascals feature film. Him and Whoopi Goldberg together. Okay.
You know that. You know, I do have to give Whoopi Goldberg
I
credit.
was watching that with my kid. I was like, Jesus Christ! I wonder if they're gonna blur him out.
I have to give Whoopi Goldberg credit because like for as much shit as The View talked about Trump, she was like, well, I mean, like I like hobnobbed around with him for years, like
A lot of people in
Yeah.
Hollywood had. He was like been a Hollywood guy for a long time.
yeah. But and it, like I don't know if like you noticed it was like younger Hollywood people saying how terrible he was.
Sure.
But like even the people that were against his policies, they're like, this is not the Trump I knew. The Trump I knew was a kind, caring man. I'm like, it's still the same dude. You just
I
need
don't
to
know.
do this
He's
for
just
your
like
job.
normal rich guy shit to me.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
You know what I mean?
no,
Like-
you know what I'm saying? Like they're just saying that for their job. The people that knew him that were talking shit, you know?
Yeah, I'm just saying. I never saw the racial shit. I saw more like elitist shit. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? Like,
exactly. Yeah.
that's where I looked at
He-
the way
the
that
only
guy and
color-
the way that those types of folks operate. They care about
Yeah,
green.
exactly. That's the only color they
We've
care
said that
about.
between
Yeah.
the two of us. We've said that 1,000 times.
My
Fucking-
my favorite sexual assault allegation of him was RuPaul's sexual assault allegation. Did you ever hear
What?
that? Dude, it was great.
No.
And people are like, you should report him and stuff. He's like,
Did he try and get some
Yeah,
loose knuckle from
he's-
RuPaul?
yeah, he's like, I just think it's a hilarious story that I will tell over and over again. He's like, that'll be like his punishment for trying to sexually assault me. He's like, anyway, so I was at an event or whatever, right? And she was like, I was dressed to the nines or whatever. And
I
then,
think RuPaul is a he, right?
yeah, RuPaul's a dude. Anyway,
Yeah. I'm saying like he's
he's
he goes
famous
by-
for being a crossdresser, yes.
yeah.
So, and I was talking to him, and he was being very flirtatious, and he pulled me off to the side, and he started making out with me. So I started making out back with him. I was like, oh my. And then, but then he started getting real aggressive, and I was like, okay, let him find out. And he was talking very dirty to me, and then he grabbed down there and got a handful of man, and he just went, oh. He just went, oh, and then like stormed out of the room and never came back. And they're like, that's sexual assault. He's like, that's funny. And it's true. And it's hilarious that he, like, it's terrible that he would try to do that to a woman, but it's hilarious.
Upset. It was, but hold on.
Yeah.
You can't automatically assume that he would just continue if somebody didn't respond to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, that's the whole thing.
Maybe it's a fucked up way to shoot your shot. Fine, I can see that being true. But if that was the way he shot his shot, and that person just was like, "Get the fuck off me," and he got the fuck off them.
Yeah, like RuPaul said, he didn't resist.
Yeah,
So.
if he started making out back with him, I think that's hilarious too. Yeah. Kudos. Well, RuPaul's a motherfucker who came up in a time where like that actually is a brave motherfucker. That was before it was acceptable to do all that shit. Like everybody gives Caitlyn Jenner a lot of props. What about RuPaul? RuPaul was in drag on TV 25 fucking years ago, maybe
30 years ago, man, in the 80s.
That motherfucker was brave as fuck.
That's what I'm saying. And honestly, RuPaul, I felt like he was the most sane.
To exist openly in an alternative lifestyle back then, without being completely pigeonholed.
Well, when people would bring him on to talk shit about Trump, I feel like
legit movies and shit too.
He's got his own Broadway show that's been going for like 10 years.
And his own brand,
or
you know what I mean?
Not Broadway, Bravo show.
Yeah, but that motherfucker was brave. That motherfucker was brave.
Dude, that's what I'm saying. Like when people would drag him into a room and talk to him like on TV about Trump, I felt like he was the most sane person in the room because they would be going crazy, and he's just like.
I heard Paul's fucking song a million times in my house during like
the cover girl.
People there and work. Fucking man, I heard that a million times.
But like that, I feel like you said, like to come out in that time as like an alternative lifestyle and doing that, and then also be in the public eye for so long.
Way more brave than anybody trying to come out now and be Woman of the Year.
That when he's in a room with young girls that are like, eye contact is rape, and he's like, excuse me, like like.
You're talking about two very different cultures.
I know, but they think that he's gonna automatically agree with them, and that's like a 60-plus-year-old man that's been doing drag. Yeah, that's been doing drag for like 40 to 50 years.
He's a gangster.
Like, and you're gonna try to tell him like how things are, and you've been alive for like 20 years maybe, and then like thinking the dumb way you've been thinking for like a handful of years, and he's just like, I've been living life like in the worst times to do it, and now he's like, and you're complaining about being a little different now, like this is the best time.
It goes back to like when we were talking about cops earlier, like how like you crooked cop who's not an asshole to people he pulls over for dumb shit, and a cop who's like by the book who's a prick to people for no reason. Like it's the same thing with shit like that. Like I had my sister's godfather, we called him Uncle Pat. He was like flamboyant, he was a gay man, but he also was like a fucking 6'3" big fucking guinea dago, and every now and then he'd turn that on too if he needed to, you know what I'm saying? Like, and fucking it's dichotomy. RuPaul's the same thing where it's like there's a lot of like layers to an individual. You can't automatically. That's what happens too with this younger generation of people. I feel like there's this automatic like connect to the dots of shit where it's like you'd say this, then this. It's like a Mad Libs of how you're supposed to feel about it, instead of like actually like sitting there and unraveling all the different layers of a person or an idea and like all that kind of thing. Like you could disagree vehemently on one aspect but still retain a lot of similar ethics and morals as an individual, and if you don't give each other time to like talk it through, like we don't agree on everything but there's like a baseline, and it's like one of those same kind of things. You can't develop that unless you have open conversation, you know what I mean? Which that's the victim right now of a lot of things is the freedom to have open conversations without being nervous about getting like in trouble or whatever.
So our friend of the show, one of our former guests, Doug, is a big TikToker now, and he posted something like about like because he's like into the kink stuff, and he's like a dom, and he's like, as soon as somebody says like no, it's rape, and he's like, yeah, and that is true. Like you should, like you shouldn't be forcing people to do what they want. He's like, or like, but like like women, not all, I know it wasn't that. It was like all men or not all men are both wrong because of blah 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 blah. And he's like, it's on men to like make the men that would like rape women like be scared and stuff and like fearful for their lives kind of thing. Like that, he's like, if you're gonna do like a men need to like make other men better, he's like, that would be, how men would deal with it, like violence towards those men. And this one girl was like, that's not how that works. We need to change the fucking patriarchal culture or whatever. And I was just like, in Florida, if like a dude finds out that another dude raped a woman that he knows or a woman, that guy probably will just be like alligator food because you just take him down to the Everglades with a bunch of Christmas hams. I'm like, and she was like, no, Florida's the worst for rape. You guys are like at 17%. And I was like, please show me the math. I would like to do the math. And then I found it, and I don't know if you know this, but like 0.3% of the population, like it's 0.3% is raped. Like that's in Florida because of like the retaliatory like crimes of people like going to jail for like killing rapists. Like we have the highest percentage of like rapists being killed, whether they're convicted or not.
Every state in the United States has its own culture.
Yeah.
You have a lot of people that come from the third world in southern Florida. You have a lot of rednecks in central and northern Florida, the Panhandle. Those are two groups, like coming from the people in the Caribbean that I'm related to. I've heard many a story about the town decides this person is a fucking problem and action is taken, especially if they're doing something that's like criminally violent or whatever kind of thing, and or a horrific thing. So it's not like a huge shock to me that still goes on in certain parts of America where you have large populations of people from countries where that's how shit is handled. And to me, when it comes to certain kind of shit, it's almost like a good way to go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's one
So,
of those things where, you know.
The unique part about Florida is that there's only 2 other states with a higher population than us, and we have the same percentages as like of rape and retaliatory like murdering of rapists that like Alabama does, and Alabama has like a population of like one family, you know, like it's like all one family that lives there. But like
22 people and we're all good.
yeah, like so that's the weird thing. Like people in other states that have a similar population usually like let the law sort it out, and Florida is just like, no, I am the law, like, you know, like.
Well, again, you're talking about culture, right? Like I
Yeah,
come from Cuba.
but the cops don't stop them is the thing most of the time, you know.
Cuban people don't really call the cops because where they come from, if you call the cops, you got to deal with the cops.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's the same kind of shit. I grew up in West Palm in an area that was predominantly like Mexican and Central American. A lot of people from Guatemala, a lot of people from El Salvador, a lot of people like, so it's one of those things where like in those countries, cops are not as reliable as we may feel like they are here, and the culture is not to rely on that. A lot of the time in those cultures, people talk to their neighbor directly if there's an issue and work shit out. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot more of a communal attitude, and so it's for lack of a better term, it's a very white, I feel like, to involve the law, in my opinion, from my anecdotal experience.
So the other thing though is like the police here, like we've talked about it, they're kind of more laid back because I feel like more of them are crooked, but more of them are crooked in the way that you were like, I don't want to hurt nobody, I'm just trying to make extra money, whatever. Yeah. So like that's
if you could fucking drug dealers like scot-free and fucking pocket cash, and you taking people off the street that you feel like are shitty people anyway, like, so I feel like so many cops skim in that way. It doesn't make any sense that they wouldn't. It's such
just
in
Florida. I feel like just in Florida because a lot.
Dude, Louisiana is legendarily corrupt. Chicago is legendarily corrupt.
That's the South.
Baltimore's legendarily corrupt. Fucking Mississippi is legendarily.
Yeah, you're talking about the. You're talking about the
Delta.
South. I feel like the South we can all encapsulate together. Chicago's corrupt. I don't think in a good way.
Baltimore South. Baltimore's kind of like.
Dude, Virginia's the South.
All
So
right.
you have to drive through Maryland to get there. Dude, that's where the South starts. The South, the head of the Confederacy, brother. In Virginia, when they say the South will rise again, they're talking about Virginia.
Yeah. I know this. In West Virginia, we went into a hotel, and the first thing they said was, we're driving from like New Jersey to Georgia, and the first thing they said was like, no locals. And we're like, what? And the guy's like, no locals. And I'm like, we're not local. Well, we hand him our IDs and shit, and he's like, I need to see everybody's ID, no locals. And we're like, all right. And we're checking. He's like, all right, sorry. And then Tom's like, I'm a vet. Here's my fucking VA card or whatever, and we get discount or whatever. And they're like, he's like, what do you call doing the thing? And he softens a lot after we realize we're not locals. And I was like, hey, just curiosity, what's the thing with no locals? And he's like, you really want to know? And I was like,
they're all heroin addicts and pillheads.
And he's like, everybody who comes in here is either doing drugs or prostitution if they're local. And I was like, oh, Jesus Christ. Are you serious? He's like, fucking dead serious. He's like, everybody. And just like 5 minutes, 10 minutes up the highway, we were in like a fucking Quaker village or whatever, buying like these like specialty breads and homemade pastas and pies and shit. It's like two worlds, one on either side of the highway. It's fucking weird as fuck, West Virginia.
Have you seen The Wonderful Whites of West Virginia?
One of the best documentaries of all time.
That's why they're no locals. Are you one of them whites?
It's wild peeps, man.
But yeah, so like I was trying to explain to this girl, I'm like, listen, like come to Florida, like we kind of like take care of our women, right? And she's like, no, you need to fix the culture and all this shit. I was like, hey man, I'm just trying to say. Also, by the way, on TikTok, my name is Mayor of Florida because fucking I think it's hilarious that it's wrong. Like you can't be a mayor of a state, but and that's like I feel like that's the most Florida thing. Like I'm Mayor of Florida. I'm Mayor of Florida.
It's like if you call just Mayor of TikTok.
Yeah. Ooh. Second account, Mayor of TikTok.
Make me one, Mike. Make me one. No, fuck that.
Yeah. I feel like a TikTok would suit you better because it's more like, you know, Alonzo's shorts that he does that are really funny. He does those on TikTok. And they get like hundreds of thousands of views.
I don't know if I have the time.
It's 60 seconds.
We'll talk.
He makes him walking.
We'll talk.
That's right.
When you're up here, if I have the new phone, we'll talk.
Yes. It's real easy to do. And it's kind of fun.
I'm just going to make a new phone, so.
Hey, that's good. You need a new phone, man. Anyway.
It's only 6 or 7 years old, my phone. It's not that old. It still works perfectly fine.
Anyway, my phone was made this year.
By a tiny little Chinese fingers?
Yeah. Because a future
made this shit?
A future Chinese racist. Anyway.
Speaking of racism, the Asian hate shit that's been going on is pretty fucked up lately. There's been a lot of those videos resurging.
You know who cares about that?
Asians.
White people. That's it, really.
Think Asians care about it? Asians in Compton and in Harlem and in fucking.
Do you know what
assaulted?
you know what they care about? That confirming their racism because they only see it as black people assaulting them. That's just not a good thing. I think white people are very incorrect on hyping this up because all that's going to do is justify a bunch of Koreans to sit on the top of their fucking corner store and start picking off black people.
But it was a couple of white dudes in Georgia.
Talk to some Asians about that, specifically about the white dudes. They'll be like, huh? No, they didn't know they were Asian. They were just doing that for whatever. But the black people, like, go to the Vietnamese part of town and ask them what they think about the Asian hate. They will like placate you a little bit with the stupid narrative and then kind of sharply go around a corner of starting to talk about black people. I'm just telling you.
I don't know. Maybe it's generational too, because a lot of the friends that I have that are Asian out here, they have a lot of friends who are black who are younger. You know what I mean? Like maybe it's generation.
But what their parents have taught them.
No, but I've heard that dynamic is sometimes got a lot of tension. Those two communities are closely related in a lot of ways.
What's that? Black and Asian?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
we
Asian.
Have a lot of Asian businesses and black communities, and there's a lot of tension.
Listen, I don't justify.
There used to be Italians and blacks back in like New York in the old time,
I don't justify most like race baiters when.
Florida.
I don't justify most race baiters when they say like we're racist towards these people as black people because they're racist to us. However, I feel like black people being racist towards Asian people is 100% justified because of how racist Asian Americans are towards black people. I'm not saying either one should really be more justified than the other, but I can guarantee you a black man is not going to go out of his way to be racist to an Asian person, but an Asian person will go out of their way to be racist to a black person. Just like, if you knew the things that they say about people, like behind closed doors, you're like, are you sure these guys are Asians and not in the Klan?
I'm sure I know some, because Latin people do the same. Like Cuban people
Not
talk shit about other Latinos, and other Latinos talk shit about
not like that. No, not like that. Not like the way the like Black Lives Matter say the Klan like talks about black people. Like if you were listening to an Asian conversation about black people and like they didn't know you were there, you're like, am I at an Asian's house or are these guys gonna, or is this like a Klan rally right now? I'm not sure.
Is it more though like with like Hasidic Jews where they just look at anybody who's not what they are as just like inconsequential rather than like
No, because that's how they view like Spanish people and white people, but like black people, they're like straight up like they're like the Klan doesn't do enough anymore. Like that's how Asian people talk about black people. Like it's ruthless, literally. Like
we talk about this all the time how like there's no unilateral the worst times I've ever experienced being treated poorly like based on any kind of racial shit has been from other Latinos, been like from my own people thinking I'm white or you know not Latino enough or whatever, assuming a lot of shit and saying whatever shit before they know I'm fluent, you know what I mean?
Yeah. That's how I know what these people are saying. They're like, what are you? You look Filipino, but you're too tall. I'm like, no, I'm Filipino and white. They're like, oh, that's the right combination. So anyway, and then they're just N-word, and I'm like,
it's like my family. My dad has a bunch of kids and shit, and my you know stepdads have a bunch of kids. Like my stepdad has a bunch of kids, and there's like a bunch of kids. So like my dad's family would all label us by like the older folks, especially on his wife's side, would be like el hijo de la italiana. Like I was the son of the Italian because my mom was Italian, and like his other kids were the los hijos de la colombiana. Like that's what the Cuban side would say. Like, oh, that's the Colombian kids. The sons of the Colombian is the son of the Italian. Like, and so it's like, even if it wasn't like racist, it was racial. It took a role, and you know what I mean. Even your nickname is.
I understand that, and like Asians do that too. But like when it's like Klan, like I feel like if somebody from the Klan went into some of these conversations with Asians that I was talking about, they'd be like, well, nah, I mean, they're not that bad. You know, like the Klan member would be like, you guys are
hey, man,
going.
You guys ain't never had barbecue though, right? Like,
yeah, literally, they're like, I mean, I don't know, man. This seems a little harsh, you know, like I think that's literally
things when you grow up in a culture, like you get more of an intimate knowledge of how you know what the flaws are in your own, you know what I mean, like culture and the subcultures they're in. Like you see it straight up, like.
But and when people say like, that's when people try to say like my nationality is more racist and stuff.
Community, you know.
But like I feel like I've infiltrated like the white community, and like the white community is somehow the least racist community I've ever seen. In fact, the white guilt thing is so prominent that people don't need them guilting them more. You know what I mean?
The white racism that I have seen is more like uncomfortable. Like
that's not racism. It would be like that if it was like a tattooed up white person too.
Where it's like, you don't seem Latino at all. And it's like, what does that even mean though?
So they're saying things.
I don't think it is racism. I just it's more that's the shit you hear from white people.
Yeah.
Like that's, you know what I mean? Like there's different stuff you hear from different groups, and it starts to normalize. Like black people in Miami call Cuban people oyes or chicos. Mm-hmm. So I know I'm being talked to like in a friendly manner usually if I'm getting called a chico, and I know that there's like maybe a little bit of hostility or aggression coming at me if I'm being called oye.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, at least where I grew up. So it's like, you know what I mean? Like,
but what I'm saying is everybody wants to say like their race is like the most racist, or they know which race is the most racist, and I'm like,
that is a fun contest.
But like like I said, I've infiltrated like the white people. Yeah, I've infiltrated the white people. Like black people are pretty racist, but like it's kind of like black Americans are pretty racist, not all black people, right? But like once again, I'm not justifying it, but understandably so. Um, and then Spanish people like super racist towards each other, don't really give a fuck about anybody else. Asians will like go out of their way.
Those are racist against white people
Yeah,
and
yeah.
black people equally.
But
We just have different theories for each. You know what I mean?
so, but Asian people will go out of their way to learn the language of the most offensive slurs towards a certain group of people so they can speak their language and insert whatever language slur
Valid.
word together.
Valid.
Like it's they're like
That's cool.
yeah, no, their commitment to racism and xenophobia is unparalleled. Like Japanese people and Korean people, the world views them as generally nice people. I view them as like terrible racists and xenophobes. I'm not so against the xenophobia that Japan has, but like your bad luck, the darker your skin is.
I've
And
heard
that
yeah.
and that is a cultural thing just that's generally accepted. That's like the kids that grow up in like the Klan that think that like black people are like less evolved because that's what their dumb fucking parents taught them. But like that's
Right.
just something that's in Japan and Korea. Like you're taught to be scared.
It's like some cultural bullshit that hasn't gotten like
Yeah.
fucking
These are
unseated from the cultural zeitgeist or what
yeah,
have you.
and these are technologically advanced civilizations that are generally otherwise very open and accepting of many things, except race. Like, uh, it confuses me. Like,
Yeah.
and like I can't be a part of some Asian communities because like I'm married to a black woman, and that kind of sucks. And like I don't know. I like when I say funny things like yeah like oh the
Generational though, because I think like our generation and younger doesn't have those same.
but in the other
Hey.
countries it does like it like they're
But
still
then you
there.
have, one of my old teachers, one of my old English teachers, is a tremendous guy. He lives in Korea now, and he kind of told me like the older generations you can feel whatever, but everybody in his age group and younger, and he's older than us obviously, is a lot more open and a lot more receptive to somebody from another culture being around them and integrating into their, and also the fact that he knows the language
Yeah,
is a big factor, I'm sure. But I just think that
but they don't want him to touch him. I bet.
I don't know.
I bet they don't want him to touch him.
On one day. I hope
Yeah.
I can get maybe on one day. I'll be really
Have
cool.
him on, but they don't want him to touch him. I guarantee you. Like
Right.
no matter how young they are, it's like, oh, like I'm you know,
I
very.
believe he's married to a Korean woman, so I don't know.
I mean, that's nice. He probably met her in America, but she's still like Korean. So like
He's not from America either.
so oh I mean that doesn't matter. Black is black to them. So like a forward thinking Japanese person would be like, I have a black friend. It's like, oh, do you invite him into your home? Oh God, no, I would never invite him into my home. Like that's the type of conversation I've heard people my age have with other people. And it's like I get a pass to hang out with them.
I guess I'm always jaded about that kind of shit because I just can't really fathom it. I don't know.
So we get a weird half pass, like we've talked about, because like we can go hang out with the white people, and we can go hang out with our ethnic group people too. So
I
like
see, that's why I feel like a man with no country, because my white people in my family are super fucking Guinea Italians
yeah,
who fucking, everything's super guineaed out. So it's not really like a white experience. It's like, very,
but I mean,
very cultural or whatever. I don't know what the fuck you want to call it, but a very Italian experience. It's not really a white. I don't know what white even is. I don't know
what I mean is how you're treated. Like you're
Sure.
treated like a white guy first.
I'm always treated like I got like I'm trouble. Fucking,
That's
I'm
true.
big and covered in tattoos. I'm always
But
treated
still, the first reaction if you were a big black dude or a big Spanish dude with tattoos would be the gut shot reaction would be much worse as opposed to like, oh, this white guy's on the wrong side of the tracks,
like, yeah, potentially.
That's what I'm saying. Like we both got that like, oh, this is a white guy, and then you're like, no, I'm this, and they're like, oh, sweet, so you're this,
It
So
depends on who's
check it out.
asking you too, and where you are in the world. I've noticed,
Yeah.
like older black folks will just ask you straight up, like, because my daughter has very curly hair. I have very curly hair. When my beard is out, it's very bushy. If I have been in the sun, I get bronze. So whatever we look, I don't know, ethnic, I guess. And I've had a lot of people ask me straight up, like, what we are.
What are
I
you?
like
Yeah.
that. Old people are cooler, with that directness. They're more
Me
comfortable.
too. Yeah. No, same with me. Like I told you when I was in when I was in high school, the fucking janitor he's like, I know you're some type of Indian. I just don't know what tribe. I'm like, oh, none. None of them. Filipino. No, that can't be right. Look at your long flowing hair.
One kid's dad was throwing us out. This kid Mike and his dad
The
was
Asian.
like, get all your friends out of here. Get this little fucking wetback out of here. Get this fucking big Hawaiian out of here. So he called me a big Hawaiian. It was fucking, because I had a lot of curly hair when I was younger and fucking be out in
I
the
could
sun all
see
day.
it.
He's like, get this fucking big Hawaiian out of here. I was like 11, 12. Yeah, fucking, yeah, but I mean, it's one of those things where, like, that's the other thing that's weird to me too. Like, I never look at somebody and like think what they are, what they could. Like, I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get the whole. That's why I said it in many episodes before. I feel very outside of any racial issue because I didn't get raised like that. I didn't get raised with that concern. Everybody was at my fucking house. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so I feel very fortunate, I guess. And my family is like all mixed up: Colombians and Dominicans and fucking Jews and Catholics and fucking. It's just a hodgepodge of people. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm glad.
My immediate family with my wife and kid is the most mixed that either one of my family is.
Yeah. People like trip when people are like ask me. The funny is like when older white people try and ask you ethnically what you are, like they really beat around the bush and ask you like a series of questions, like they're trying to find out your fucking password to your fucking computer, like.
Yeah.
But like my daughter's mix is like her mom is Moroccan and Israeli, and fucking like Russian or whatever, and like I'm Cuban and Italian. And I tell people that mix, they're like, ooh, like it's so weird. I don't know. People are weird about that shit. I don't understand it because I've met people of all different kind of races and ethnicities that were cool and that were assholes. So to me, it's like way more of a one-on-one, like person to person.
That's what I thought with Asians too.
The most thing I want to know about somebody's culture, to be honest with you, is like
food.
Where's that food at? Like, what's up? What are you cooking? I'll cook my shit. You cook your shit. Let's eat each other's shit. Like that's fucking. That's what I'm into. Like.
So I thought the same thing about Asians, like more of a one-on-one, but like the more, like when you're disappointed in somebody.
Ooh, yeah.
Like I've almost only ever been disappointed by every Asian that I've ever met. Maybe a handful, and I've met a lot of Asians. Like obviously, like growing up.
Even
like
Filipinos. Filipinos seem like they're down to hang and have a good time.
I want to classify Asians or Filipinos as Asians, but I have trouble because like the culture's way different, but they're still not.
Unique. It seems super unique.
Yeah, like, and I think I understand why the other Asians are like, no, you're Asians, it's better because like it is like a fun place to go, and there are like Pacific Islands that are closer to like the Asian mainland, but they still consider them like Pacific Islanders. I don't know, because the other, like Samoa is very like aggressive, and like is racist towards Asians because of how terrible they've been to them. Same with like New Zealand, and like other islands that are closer.
I don't know about any of that shit.
It's weird. It's a weird thing, and like the Filipinos are like, food and sex, yes, right? And then everybody's like, oh yeah, everybody loves food and sex. But like the Filipinos are like food and sex to anybody. But like you still like should marry an Asian or a Filipino.
That's one of those things too that like different eras of people had different value systems and stuff like that too.
Like I can tell you there's like people my age that look down on other people in my age that are Filipino, like full blood Filipino, that have married Hawaiians and had kids with them over white people that goes back to like okay, so we're Asians because the other Asians said we're Asians, which means we look down on Pacific Islanders, and Hawaiians are Pacific Islanders. And I'm like, we're like the fucking same though, right?
I'm so glad that I was raised predominantly by the Italian like branch of my family, because my grandparents had none of that, man. Like
That's
it was
great.
just all like fucking like, oh, they make this good, let's eat it. Like fucking that was like the like there was never any of that pretense. Like the Cuban side, there was a little more like stuff like that, but like luckily I wasn't around them until I was already like 20 at length. But man, I just feel for people who like get some kind of weird fucking idea about somebody else for no goddamn reason ingrained in them young, and then have to like to walk that back somehow.
It was just weird because I've always had that mindset, you know, like how our kids are. Like they don't see the color of a kid; they just see another kid and they want to play with them. So
yes,
I never lost that. Like I just want to like, oh, you seem like a friend,
totally,
right?
Totally.
So
I love that shit, man. That's the best thing ever when you see your kid just like they don't give a fuck about how the other kid looks, or they're just like, you want to fucking play too? All right, I want to fucking pretend that we're gonna go to space. Like, and you just watch them just, boom, they just love each other right away because they
like
both want to have.
Only thing that I'm cautious about is like, oh, people don't like the same stuff as I do, and you seem like a normal person, regardless of color. It's like, and then when somebody's like, oh, I like that stuff too, I'm like, oh, you like that? Are we friends now? Like a child, like, oh, yay, we like the same Transformers, yay.
Buddies, it was the same kind of thing where we were both like, we seem like we both like have a lot of the similar, like, even though we don't like necessarily all the same things, we have a lot of the same like ideas on things. And like when we met each other, it felt like, can I sit here at lunch? Like, you know what I mean? Like at school lunch. And then like, cool, yeah, I like music, me too, cool. Like it was like, and it built like from there. But that's a part of like developing friendships. And kids are the best at it. That's the ones to watch.
So
they just be friends. They just be friends.
Yeah.
You want to be friends? They don't even give a fuck. Like, you want to be friends? Like, yeah, I want to be friends. Boom, off and running. Literally, it's the best. We're so dumb, kids.
That's why when I tell you my disappointment. Yes, clip it. That's why, like, when I tell you my disappointment with Asians, it's like I would be hanging out with like a group of other Asian kids, and then like I'd be like, oh, that kid's playing the same game we're playing, and they're like, no, oh, it's too late. Mike already went and talked to them, you know. And I'm like, okay, hey, look, now we got enough for like a full game of whatever.
I kind of get that too, though, because I have that same thing. There's a certain type of Cuban that I can't stand. There's a certain type of Italian that I can't stand. There's like a bullshit, full of shit Cuban, like that's out there that is just like, you know, like.
Oh, I know.
It infuriates me when, and I feel like almost every Cuban has the potential to go to that place a little bit, where it's like there's this certain level of bullshitter that can come out, and it's like there's this thing, I hear it, and it's like this fucking fake tone of like, listen, bro, and like this like story starts, and it's just such bullshit, and I can't stand it. So and then there's the same with Italian people. There's a certain kind of Italian who's like,
the bravado.
In Italy, in Italy, and it's like, yo, bro, you live on Miami Beach for a reason. Like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? You couldn't afford the villa on Lake Como. You got to shut the fuck up about it. Well, the pasta we get in Italy, you get the pasta you get at fucking Publix because you live next to Publix, cocksucker. Like, shut the fuck up. Like, and it was the same with a lot of the old Cubans too, honestly, with that thing where they would be like, oh, yeah, in Cuba, tianilla. It's like, we had in Cuba. It's like, why didn't you fucking fight them then and keep your shit? Fucking fuck guns.
Guns, yes. So like that's what I'm talking about. I've almost always been disappointed by almost every Asian because they're like, you're cool. You know what? It's really weird. Vietnamese people kind of don't care in a not in like food and fuck way. They're like, we're gonna do drugs together.
Vietnamese who's a really chill guy who's
they want to do drugs with you.
I've talked to you privately before, in general, but who's a really chill guy who is that kind of way where it's just like, hey, what's up? Everything's like very. I think culturally, again, that's a culture that's got a lot more of a laid back.
No, not. I think they want to do.
In Vietnam, they don't even begrudge any of the wars, man. They're like really happy to have American tourists. They're really happy to have French tourists.
They want to do drugs with everybody. That's.
A party. They want to eat and party and
they don't really want to eat. They just want to do drugs with you.
They want to eat those little things wrapped in leaves that are tasty, those little meat rolls.
Yeah, after they've been high for a couple days, sure, because they're fucking hungry. But like, they want to do drug. They want to drink and do drugs with you. And when you're like, and then when I've literally like rolled out with this gang of Vietnamese dudes in Colorado, and they're like, "You're Filipino, bro. You're the coolest fucking Filipino." And I'm like, "I guess I'm like white too." And they're like, "No, bro, you're fucking." And then like also the N word. They act like they're black.
There's a generation of Cubans that drop a lot. I'm a little older generation, I feel like, and I'm glad I am.
I'm younger than we're younger than the Vietnamese generation, and they keep doing it anyway. So they think they love the hood culture, but that like you're like, yeah, let's go eat some food. They're like, food? That's just taking up more room that I could put liquor in my belly and fucking smoke this bucket of drugs. Did you see? I've got a bucket of drugs, and I'm like, a bucket? Why a bucket? Like it's an obscene amount of. They just want to do drugs. Like that. Once again, like, well, don't touch me. Don't touch me. But like, we can fucking party, man.
That's funny.
Don't touch me.
Some cultures are just less comfortable with touch in general, right? Isn't that like the same with some cultures in like Northern Europe and like
But they'll touch their own people. Like extend for a Japanese.
Super big on touching in general. Like
that's different. They're once again they have a lot of things that are dumb, that are old ways that shouldn't fucking be. That's why they bow and they don't shake hands. But
don't we all?
Yeah. But I mean, I feel like America's pretty good on a lot of that stuff. Like, what's outdated?
I don't know.
Like, think about it for a second.
There are things if you broke anything down, right, you could take it apart and find stuff that were issues. There are certain things within our judiciary system that are outdated. There are certain things within the way we run our government that are outdated.
No, I meant like colloquially and like culturally, like what is outdated and old-fashioned.
Comparatively, we're a very young culture, right? The things that I would say are outdated and old-fashioned are like people wanting to still have religious things tied into scholastic things and shit like that. But nothing to the degree of Japan or certain European countries, just because we don't have the same history, like the same degree of history. Like they're steeped so much more deeply, right? We're like, what, 200 and change?
Yeah.
As a country, as a nation, as a culture, you know?
Yeah, and
we're super new kids on the block out here.
But what I'm talking about is like we started the country owning black people as slaves, and then we are more open to black people than a country that never owned black people as slaves. Is what I'm saying.
But I think a part of that is because black people are like a really integral part of this nation, and as far as its culture.
I mean, I feel like any person. That's what I don't understand about the Asian racism. It's like I feel like any person of any race can bring a lot to your culture, but like if you're culturally opposed to them or culturally
also you have to look at
luck.
The actual, like, topography, right? The actual like land or whatever, right? Japan itself was like super isolated physically, so you had a lot more of an opportunity to develop in this like isolated landscape, in this isolated kind of cultural capsule.
Well, China has a lot of the similar things, and they're like most of the continent. I mean, so the thing is, like,
I don't really have an answer for all of it, obviously, but I'm just saying
that
to me, it makes sense that like certain cultures are just more closed off. I just understand.
Asian people are terrible. Is the gist of what I'm saying.
Cubans have their own.
You shouldn't trust them. The way a racist says you shouldn't trust X race is what I say about Asians. You shouldn't trust them.
Jesus.
And I am one of them. But you can trust me.
If you get friendly enough with a Latino person that you guys get comfortable saying racial jokes to each other, they'll probably have some really funny ones. That's the deepest.
Yeah. No, that's the thing. I've heard. I've made. Like I said, I would say like these aren't my jokes.
And a lot of Latinos call every Asian Chino. That's like just.
I'm okay with that.
I don't know why.
I'm fine with that. They call my dad.
Every now and then, a Cuban or somebody be like, "Oye, no eres chino, eres japonés." Like that's like the furthest they'll go. Chino y japonés. That's like it. Yeah. There's no like. I've never heard. I don't even know how you would say Korean in Spanish or any shit like that. Just because I've never heard anybody utilize any.
Never heard it.
Of other Asians or Filipino, anything like that. Vietnamese and Spanish. I never heard it. It's always chino. Maybe like I said, "Oye, no hay comida chino. Sushi eres de Japones. Like that's it. That's the whole I've never, and it's not even like I'm trying to knock my own people. I'm just saying like I've never heard the distinction. It's just like English, Irish, Scottish. We don't think about that distinction in my experience.
But
they're always just like, oye, lo gringuito allá de England.
Yeah, but that's not like racist. That's like that's generalizing origin, which
Sure,
I'm like okay with.
Racist, but I'm saying
like
those are things that you grew up with colloquially. Like,
yeah.
You know?
Like I said, Asians go out of the way to learn the most offensive language of a slur towards a people just to insert it into their everyday like speech.
Yeah. I'm just glad, like you were talking about Filipino culture, like food and bang, and I'm glad I'm a part of two cultures that like good times are really predominant aspects, because that kind of overshadows a lot of the uglier shit. Because like again, and it's just my family, because I've heard stories about some pretty racist guineas, especially in the Northeast. But like, I'm really fortunate. My mom's side of the family is just super like, I don't know. We just knew everybody. You know what I mean? We were always eating food with everybody. It was always like get together.
In Florida. Like they got their roots. Yeah, they got their roots from where they're from.
50s, yeah.
Yeah, they got their roots from where they're from, and they brought their culture down to Florida, and everybody's pretty open and accepting, in Florida. Sure. So like, you learn to be like, oh, everybody's just people here. I really like Florida, man. It's really unlike any place that I've been in the entire world. And I know you moved away, but like it's just a great place. It's just so many people are here.
I really enjoy where I'm at now. I enjoy Atlanta a lot. It's a fun area, and I'm in an area outside of it that's really nice. But again, it's one of those things where like home's always going to be home. Every place is going to have its. That's what's beautiful about America, man. Frankly, the fact that we have this like crazy variation of places that marble this country. Like every place has its own little weird flavor, and you can, if you like a thing, go there. If you like this, be here. You like the way they do this, be here. Like that's the best thing about that's why I hope we don't streamline and become more nationalist as a country in any direction, because I think it's awesome that we're our own weird shit.
No, but I think that's something to be proud of.
Yeah, I love that. That's what's supposed to be.
Like when Trump was talking like nationalism is good. That's what I was thinking of. I wasn't thinking like America's superior, like everybody else bow. Like, and
nationalism, I think of things streamlining where everything becomes like more centralized government, more national control. I like the idea of like everything is localized. Everything is like Georgia is like Georgia is. Alabama is like Alabama is. Delaware is like Delaware is. Fucking every place has its own flavor and tapestry. And you go to Colorado, you're getting one experience. You go to Utah, you're getting another experience. You go to fucking Indiana, you're getting another experience.
But that's what I think of when it comes to particular American nationalism, because like other nations, they're not broken up the way we are, and also still like function like we do. So that's what I think a lot of people misconstrued like nationalism in America with nationalism traditionally being pretty terrible. I will agree. Mm-hmm. But like I
just saw nationalism in those terms. I saw that more as like I said, like the streamlining of the government.
Well, like even that racist Richard Spencer was like, he loves America because like black people can go make their own thing and white people can go make their own thing.
That guy also loves wieners too.
Yeah, I mean clearly, but what I'm saying is like even the terrible people, their version of nationalism in America is like no, we're America, we're different because like people like you said, the states govern themselves mostly, but we're still united as people. We're still all Americans.
Yeah,
and
we're supposed to be. That's the sad part. Like,
yeah,
we are losing sight of that, I think, in favor of this red versus blue bullshit, which is so stupid.
Well, that's why, like, at the beginning of the night, it was comforting to see two of the craziest people on, like, a divisively left-wing media company come so center and logically on an issue that had the potential to be, like, another Floyd, whatever his name is.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. I think it's one of those things where we're looking at we're looking at people being caught in a fever pitch, and we're looking at people being super, and maybe rightfully so. People are heavily scrutinizing law enforcement. I don't think that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
As long as when the hysteria dies down, we all take a breath, and we gotta stop with the knee-jerk reactions. We gotta stop with the shit like what LeBron did. That kind of thing is like really unhelpful to anybody. That doesn't help the kid who was shot. That doesn't help anybody else. You're gonna have other people that were traumatized by that event, seeing their loved one get gunned down. You're gonna have other people, even the kid who was potentially about to be a stab victim, is surely going to be fucked up by that scenario, watching that unfold in front of them, coming that close to mortal harm themselves. And we're not hearing about any of that shit. We're just hearing about this whole police narrative shit, where in that case, if you were the parent of the kid who was about to get stabbed, you might think that motherfucker's a hero. And this issue, perspective, is really important. And I think we need to wait and see if protocols were properly met. We need to wait and review the video and allow people who really investigate that shit to review the video. And we need to allow as many videos as possible, however many body cams were rolling at that time. We need all the information before we can decide to condemn anybody. And we need to start making sure that we do that before we allow like frenzies to take cities and burn them to the ground.
What I want to know is, I feel like it's pretty important. The girl that was shot and killed, her dad was stomping on the head of the sister of the girl whose life was saved. An adult man was stomping on the head of a child.
How old was the girl that he was stomping on?
Similar in age to the 16-year-old.
Right, similar in age to the 16-year-old.
Not an adult. No, not an adult. That was not an adult. Everybody, like, she was younger. Yeah, an adult stomping on a minor's head. I want to know what is happening. So, I would never, like, say, oh, the world's better off.
It all sounds bad, man. I get what you're saying. No, it all sounds fucking all bad.
I'm not saying that, like, so, like...
Listen, that's another thing we don't want to talk about, man. That's another thing people don't want to talk about, like...
What kind of family is that, is what I'm saying, like...
That's what I'm saying. That's the kind of shit people don't want to talk about when we run into these kind of issues and these kind of scenarios where someone's in that kind of situation where it's like, man, I know a lot of people who don't get in those fucking situations. I know a lot of people of all races who don't get in those situations. So we have to look at the whole circumstance. And I think it's really important that we wait and watch and listen and then decide. I think that's a really good place to leave the episode because we've come full circle and it's midnight 30. We're exactly around 2 hours, I think.
Woo, that's right.
Yeah. Wait and watch and see. And listen, if at the end of the day due process goes through and this officer also gets found guilty for some sort of negligence or some sort of breach of protocol, then you have to allow that investigation to go through. We can't fucking freak out, especially with everything's on tape. Once with that, we have to allow a process to take place. We have to allow that shit. And I think hopefully with Chauvin, a precedent was set that these guys can get arrested for that kind of grievous fucking misbehavior as a law enforcement officer. I don't think that's what we're looking at so far with this other case, but I think we should wait for all of the information to come out and all of the possible footage to come out. Every body cam should get fucking, you know what I mean? Like, we should see it all.
I agree. I'm queuing
also
up the
people,
outro.
Stop being such fucking, humans. Humans are awful.
Slipknot said it best. People equal shit.
Yeah.
All right, friend.
Well, this has been another episode of the Lonely Screen Delicatessen Over the Wire podcast series. We're going to slowly work our way, folks, into being into an in-house studio at all times. We're going to do our very best to put ourselves there eventually. And we've got one more episode coming up before we have a little short break, and then a clump of stuff is going to come out. A bunch of fun stuff. So if you enjoy watching us, even for brief moments or even for just momentary enjoyment, share our shit to friends, like our shit, subscribe to our shit, so that we can potentially do more of this kind of shit and do more of the other kind of shit, like the cooking videos and all that shit of shit. Shit.
Shit.
LSD.
Bye.